Chapter 2147, You Can't Leave. 3. Mu Ziying was already used to Meng Yao and her gang's bullying tactics. As for the newly arrived Yiqing, Mu Ziying was ambivalent toward her. But Yiqing's intervention gave rise to a different sort of feeling inside Mu Ziying. Teacher Yi was the first and only person inside the Netherworld Academy to stand up for her. I will soon be kicked out of the Netherworld Academy anyway. Teacher Yi, you don't need to waste your efforts on someone like me. Mu Ziying kept her head lowered, her soft, childish voice tinged with a sense of helplessness. She already knew that she wouldn't be able to stay on, so she didn't want to implicate teacher Yiqing. As Yiqing Tang looked at the little girl who had her head lowered the entire time, she couldn't resist reaching out to stroke her head. Who said I am doing this for you? That student was breaking the academy rules. As a teacher, I have the authority to punish her. This has nothing to do with you. Although Mu Ziying didn't acknowledge her as her teacher, she was still under her care. How could she let others bully her student? Mu Ziying knew that Yiqing Tang was only saying this to make her feel better. Teacher Yi, I can see that the workmanship of this puppet is very exquisite. Did your family make this for you? Yiqing Tang didn't want this little girl to continue wallowing in her guilt, and so changed the topic. She could tell that this puppet was very important to Mu Ziying. At the mention of her puppet, Mu Ziying's expression shifted. She shook her head. I made it myself. Wow, you are quite talented. Not bad. Yiqing Tang smiled. Mu Ziying was taken aback. Cheeks flushing, she buried her head in the puppet. Even her ears had turned red. Yiqing Tang was about to laugh when she saw that Mu Ziying had raised the hand of the puppet to make a thank you gesture at her. It made Yiqing Tang feel an even stronger urge to laugh. This girl was a bit strange but still rather likable. Suddenly, Yiqing Tang recalled a technique that she had seen in her past life. She opened her hand and 5 lines of light shot out from her 5 fingers, swirling around the limbs of the puppet. Mu Ziying felt the puppet in her arms move. She lifted her head in astonishment and suddenly saw her beloved puppet float into midair. The puppet then made a hugging gesture. It was like the puppet had come alive. Mu Ziying's eyes went round with shock. She was completely dumbstruck. The little puppet circled around Mu Ziying, whose mouth fell open in amazement. By the time Mu Ziying calmed down, she realized that Teacher Yi had one hand raised. One could vaguely see transparent lines of light linking the tips of her fingers to the puppet. Teacher Yi. Do you want to learn? Yiqing Tang smiled at Mu Ziying, who looked extremely eager. Mu Ziying immediately nodded. Yiqing Tang continued. This is called the spirit control line. It is a cultivation technique to control puppets. I will teach you if you want to learn. The spirit control line was created by a puppet grand master 300 years into the future. One just had to infuse spirit energy into a puppet to cement a contract between it and the master. The person could then control the puppet even from thousands of miles away. The puppet could even be made to look and behave exactly like a real person. As long as the spirit control lines didn't break off, no one would know it was merely a puppet. Fortunately, Yiqing Tang knew the cultivation technique of the spirit control line. But this kind of technique, which enabled one to even commit murder from afar, was not suitable for her. Chapter 2148, Teaching. 1. The puppets used by the puppet masters had to be personally crafted by them. The further the range of control, the higher the skill level required. Although puppet masters then were very powerful, they had rather weak physical bodies. Most puppet masters would hide out in a dark corner and use their puppets to perform tasks. As a result, no one really knew what the most famous puppet masters looked like. Yiqing Tang did not focus much on puppet skills as she preferred to strengthen her own body, or rather, she was unable to carve such exquisite puppets. Can I? Mu Ziying's eyes brightened. In the future, come to my classroom and I will teach you. Yiqing Tang disabled the spirit control line and returned the puppet to Mu Ziying. She had only practiced up to level 1 of the spirit control line technique, and could only control a puppet within a range of 3 meters. Mu Ziying nodded solemnly before breaking out into a smile for the first time. Her grim little face was instantly transformed into a radiant one. Seeing the small girl's hopeful expression, Yi Qingtang smiled and patted Mu Ziying's shoulder before turning to leave. She had managed to settle another brat, but... As Yi Qingtang turned, the spirit control line which she had just released seemed to have detected something strange about that puppet. It was the bloody aura of decay. It seemed like that puppet was not as simple as it appeared. Yi Qingtang had settled Mu Ziying. Meanwhile, Meng Yao, who had endured 15 strokes of the cane, was full of rage and humiliation. Damn scoundrel. If not for the fact that he is a teacher, I would never let him humiliate me like this. Meng Yao gritted her teeth. She felt a strong urge to skin Yi Qing alive. That Yi Qing had a lower cultivation level than her but managed to one-up her just because she was a teacher. Meng Yao could not disobey and had no choice but to comply. Where did that teacher Yi come from? When did our academy hire such a lousy teacher? Could he be a fake? One of the teenage girls found it very suspicious. I don't think so. I heard that the academy arranged for a new teacher for Mu Ziying and a few other students. And Mu Ziying addressed him as teacher earlier. He can't be a fake, another teenage girl piped up. But I also heard that the new teacher is not an official teacher. He seems to be on probation. Meng Yao became even more incensed at this information. That lousy scum. He's not even an official teacher but dared to use the academy regulations to bully me. We are not going back anymore. Come with me to find teacher Di Nuo. Meng Yao gritted her teeth. Di Nuo was her direct teacher. As he was on good terms with Meng Yao's family, Di Nuo usually took extra care of Meng Yao on campus. This was also one of the reasons why Meng Yao dared to bully others on campus. When Jing Zhe returned to the classroom the next day, he saw that there was a petite figure already inside. Mu Ziying was sitting quietly in the corner, her head lowered as she played with her puppet. She appeared not to have noticed Jing Zhe's arrival at all. Jing Zhe was still feeling surprised when Yi Qingtang entered. Hearing Yi Qingtang's footsteps, Mu Ziying immediately lifted her head and stared at her with sparkling eyes. Jing Zhe, what was going on? Teacher Yi. Mu Ziying hurriedly stood up and bowed respectfully toward Yi Qingtang. Chapter 2149, Teaching, 2, Yi Qingtang nodded slightly. Jing Zhe also snapped out of his trance and bowed. Yi Qingtang was in no hurry. She asked about Jing Zhe's progress before pointing out some mistakes in his cultivation and advising him on how to improve while Jing Zhe listened attentively. Neither of them noticed that Mu Ziying was also carefully listening to their discussion. Mu Ziying had pretty high innate talents, but as her bloodline was too unique, she found it very difficult to practice normal cultivation techniques. However, she had a very high level of comprehension. She could not understand every single thing from Yi Qingtang and Jing Zhe's discussion, but she could comprehend certain parts and those were already enough to amaze her. This teacher Yi had turned all the proper rules of cultivation upside down. But there was still order in the chaos. And it was even more brilliant. All that was shared didn't look like things that a person who was only at the Paragon's 6th heaven level could know. The more Mu Ziying heard, the more she couldn't figure out this teacher. Teacher Yi didn't seem to be as lousy as they first thought. Mu Ziying had originally only wanted to learn the spirit control line technique from Yi Qingtang. But after hearing her discussion with Jing Zhe, she inadvertently absorbed and refined all that information inside her mind. After advising Jing Zhe, Yi Qingtang had him go to the side to continue practicing. She then went to Mu Ziying to talk about the spirit control line. The spirit control line was actually not complicated, but before that puppet grandmaster created this technique, no one had thought of such a thing. Yi Qingtang explained the basics of the spirit control line to Mu Ziying, who very quickly understood everything. However, the more Mu Ziying listened to Yi Qingtang's explanation, the more shocked she became. How did Teacher Yi manage to come up with such a simple method, completely reforming the normal techniques of current puppet masters? Teacher Yi, you are so amazing. Mu Ziying spoke with sincerity. Her eyes sparkled as she gazed at Yi Qingtang. She had wanted to learn puppet skills, but the current puppet cultivation techniques were very complicated. One would never be able to control a puppet at will without dozens of years of hard work. But with this spirit control line, Mu Ziying could grasp the method to control puppets within a short period. It shortened the time needed by 100-fold. And the effects were even better. At level 1 of the spirit control line, you will only be able to control your puppet within a range of 5 meters. But this range can be increased if you manage to practice to higher levels. Not only will the range increase, but your controlling skills will also improve. Yi Qingtang continued to explain. Yi Qingtang had used Mu Ziying's puppet during her demonstration of the spirit control line. As a result, she could only control within a range of about 3 meters. Mu Ziying would be controlling her own puppet, and so her range was naturally wider. Puppet masters were a rare occupation. In her previous life, Yi Qingtang only discovered the existence of such people when she arrived at the second domain. Nevertheless, although puppet masters were rare, they had astonishing battle prowess. Especially after the creation of the spirit control line, Yi Qingtang had personally seen a puppet master control a 10,000-strong puppet army from 1,000 miles away. The army destroyed an entire city within minutes. The citizens all died before they could even see clearly who their enemy was. It was rumored that the puppet grandmaster who created the spirit control line could control up to 1,000,000 puppets. Just the thought of that could make one's scalp go numb. One person possessing the power of 1,000,000. It was a terrifying level of battle prowess. Not only that, as the puppet master's cultivation level rose, the powers of his puppets would likewise increase. Chapter 2150, Teaching, 3. Mu Ziying was a serious student and Yi Qingtang was a conscientious teacher. After teaching her the key concepts, she let Mu Ziying try the technique out on her own. Then she could come and ask her if she encountered any issues. Apart from practicing the spirit control line, Mu Ziying would also listen to Yi Qingtang's teachings on foundational martial art techniques together with Jing Zhe. Whenever there was anything she couldn't understand, Mu Ziying felt too embarrassed to disturb Yi Qingtang. Instead, she would ask Jing Zhe. Jing Zhe was naturally timid, and faced with Mu Ziying's queries, he would go all red-faced. But he still explained it all to her patiently. Jing Zhe. Mu Ziying had just finished all her queries when she gave a sudden start. She scanned Jing Zhe all over with her pitch-black eyes. Jing Zhe, he swallowed nervously. Your powers seem to have improved, Mu Ziying circled Jing Zhe. Her abilities were above that of Jing Zhe's, and so she could sense the changes in his body. Jing Zhe was taken aback. He immediately blushed. Yes. I have improved a little. I will break through to the 7th heaven level soon. Mu Ziying was startled. So fast. She remembered that Jing Zhe was only at the 6th heaven level when Yi Qingtang had arrived. And he had remained stagnant at the 6th heaven level for many years without any progress. But he was going to break through after just half a month. What kind of demonic speed was this? Even the top prodigies in the Netherworld Academy could not possibly advance by a whole level in just half a month. Teacher Yi, where did he come from? Mu Ziying pursed her lips. She was very curious about the mysterious Yi Qing. At this moment, Yi Qingtang was no longer a lousy teacher in the hearts of Mu Ziying and Jing Zhe. Her teachings had opened a brand new doorway for them both. In fact, her status in their hearts had become extremely high. I don't know, but I feel very lucky to have met Teacher Yi. Jing Zhe gave a silly smile. The hint of a smile also appeared in Mu Ziying's eyes. She hugged her puppet tightly and nodded. Teacher Yi's appearance was like a bright lamp, lighting up their pitch-black paths. Damn, am I seeing things? Nangong Lai was just passing by the classroom when he saw Mu Ziying also sitting inside. He couldn't help feeling rather astonished. Nangong Lai had not come to this classroom over this period of time. He just happened to pass by today, unexpectedly seeing that the strange Mu Ziying was also there. And that useless Jing Zhe. What was going on? Had Mu Ziying also been convinced by that teacher Yi? Impossible. Mu Ziying's powers were even higher than teacher Yes. Nangong Lai was very curious but saw Jing Zhe emerging from the classroom looking like he had something to do. Without a second thought, Nangong Lai immediately turned to leave. Left alone in the classroom, Yi Qingtang settled down to cultivate. By teaching Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying, she was at the same time refreshing her faded past memories on those foundational martial art techniques. As she quietened down to cultivate, there was a sudden knock at the door. Yi Qingtang rose to open the door and saw Nangong Lai standing outside. Why had this brat come looking for her? Yi Qingtang was puzzled. Nangong Lai had a strange expression on his face, but he grinned when he saw Yi Qingtang. Teacher Yi, I just saw something and feel that I need to tell you about it. If you are free now, please hurry over to the martial arts faculty's practice arena to take a look. Chapter 2151, Humiliation. 1. The students who had been practicing on their own at the martial arts faculty's practice arena had all gathered around one spot. It was a noisy, messy crowd. Jing Zhe, when did you become so bold? You dare to stand up for someone else? A tall, brawny teenager gazed mockingly at Jing Zhe, who was standing in front of him. At this moment, a pale-faced Jing Zhe was standing in the crowd. Behind him was the petite Mu Ziying. One side of her face was already red and swollen. Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying were amongst the students practicing on their own in the practice arena as they had been trying out Yi Qingtang's teachings. But Meng Yao, who had suffered under Yi Qingtang's hands earlier, had brought a few teenagers over to seek out Mu Ziying. Before Jing Zhe could understand what was going on, Meng Yao's friend, Zhang Qiqiu, had slapped Mu Ziying across the face. Zhang Qiqiu entered the academy at the same time as Jing Zhe. Their abilities were similar then, but after so many years, Jing Zhe's cultivation level remained stagnant while Zhang Qiqiu had already reached the Paragon 7th heaven level. Zhang Qiqiu would often bully Jing Zhe, who would quietly endure it. But today, after seeing Mu Ziying being beaten, Jing Zhe finally couldn't tolerate it anymore. He stepped forward. Zhang Qiqiu, if you have any problem, come and look for me. For the first time in his life, Jing Zhe was speaking up against Zhang Qiqiu. But his voice was trembling with anxiety and his face was pale. Jing Zhe, leave. They are here for me. Mu Ziying held her swollen cheek. No. Jing Zhe immediately shook his head. The two of them were under Yi Qingtang's mentorship and so Jing Zhe naturally treated the younger Mu Ziying as his junior sister. As useless as he was, he could not just stand by and watch his own junior sister get beaten. Oh, trying to be a hero? Jing Zhe, are you itching for a beating? Have you looked at yourself in the mirror? You dare to try and be a hero? What? Have you already forgotten your place because I have not given you a good thrashing lately? Zhang Qiqiu cracked his knuckles loudly. Everyone in the academy knew that Jing Zhe had a timid personality and his powers were only mediocre. As a result, he was often bullied and Zhang Qiqiu was one of the culprits. Although Zhang Qiqiu was not considered outstanding in the Netherworld Academy, he could easily suppress a useless student like Jing Zhe. As a result, he would often bully Jing Zhe, finding any excuse to beat him up, just to show off his power. The surrounding teenagers all paused in their activities to watch the scene. Everyone knew that Jing Zhe was ranked last in the entire Netherworld Academy. Beating up Jing Zhe was a common pastime for many of the more nasty students. Everyone felt that there was nothing wrong with bullying Jing Zhe. In the Netherworld Academy, he was like a dog whom anyone could kick while he was down. Now, it seemed that this dog had learned how to bark. Mu Ziying, you are really shameless. You hid behind that new teacher previously to save your own life. And now, you managed to hook onto this foolish boy. I didn't expect a young girl like you to know how to seduce others. Meng Yao folded her arms across her chest as she grinned wickedly at Mu Ziying. How could she forget her earlier humiliation? She could not take revenge on Yi Qing, but it would be no problem for her to take her anger out on this wretched little girl. Chapter 2152, Humiliation. 2. Meng Yao's words were particularly vicious. If Jingzai hadn't heard it with his own ears, he could hardly imagine any student from the Netherworld Academy spouting such malevolent nonsense. The words made Mu Ziying's face turn pale. Meng Yao's malicious words to her in such a public arena were like acid slowly eroding her dignity. They were clearly just a bunch of young teenage girls who should be ignorant of such adult matters. And this made her venomous accusations sound even more horrifying. I haven't seen you much over these past few days. So it seems that you've been fooling around with this silly kid. So disgusting. How did our Netherworld Academy produce such a shameless hussy like you? Meng Yao frowned disdainfully at Mu Ziying. Mu Ziying had always been introverted and seldom interacted with the other students. So apart from Jingzai, no one else was willing to help her. They all stood by the side smiling, enjoying the spectacle. Damn, this Meng Yao's mouth is really foul. Mu Ziying is so young. Lei Yan, who had been hanging out with teenagers from his family clan, was also attracted by the commotion. Hearing Meng Yao's evil accusations, even a fiend like him couldn't help frowning. Meng Yao, how can you make such slanderous accusations? Jingzai went pale with anger. He didn't expect a lady to slander a young child in front of everyone. Humph, slander. Jingzai, don't be so shameless. I am definitely giving her a beating today. Get lost if you don't want to die. Otherwise, I will gladly give you a beating too. Meng Yao gave a cold smile. Jingzai stiffened but he didn't move aside. Hurry up, leave now, he whispered to Mu Ziying. No one is to leave. Meng Yao stated coldly. Zhang Qiqiu and the rest had Jingzai and Mu Ziying surrounded, not giving either of them any opportunity to escape. The onlookers all secretly shook their heads at the sight. Meng Yao and Zhang Qiqiu's powers were not that outstanding. But they had strength in numbers. Also, even if it was a one-on-one fight, with Jingzai's abilities, he would only end up receiving a sound thrashing. As for Mu Ziying, she was still too young. At that moment, everyone realized that there was no way Jingzai and Mu Ziying would escape a thrashing today. I say, Zhang Qiqiu, this is so unfair. A bunch of big fellows like you making trouble for a little girl. That can't be right. A voice suddenly rang out from the crowd. Everyone turned and saw that it was Lei Yan who had spoken. The teenagers from his family clan were all startled by Lei Yan's words. Lei Yan didn't wish to intervene, but as roguish as he was, he did have a bottom line. He would never hit a female. Although he did not interact much with Mu Ziying, it went against his principles to see a little girl being surrounded by a bunch of people. Lei Yan, what business is this of yours? What? Do you also have something going on with this girl? Meng Yao smirked. Lei Yan's face darkened. This woman's mouth was truly filthy. Lei Yan, forget it. This has nothing to do with us. Just keep quiet. One of the teenagers from his family clan tugged at Lei Yan. It was bad enough that Lei Yan often made trouble for himself. Now, he wanted to interfere with other people's affairs. They did not wish to be dragged down together with him. Although Lei Yan wanted to say something, Meng Yao and Zhang Qiqiu completely ignored him. Meng Yao nodded at Zhang Qiqiu, who immediately led the gang toward Jingzai and Mu Ziying. Chapter 2153, Humiliation, 3. It was difficult for one person to fight against a whole group. Jingzai immediately blocked Mu Ziying with his body, using himself as a shield against those punches and kicks. He bore all the attacks in silence. You are pretty resilient. Let me see how long you can endure this. Continue beating him. Meng Yao knew that the practice arena teacher was away for the moment. This was why she dared to behave so brazenly. Jingzai knew he was not their match. All he could do was to stay firm and shield Mu Ziying with his body. Heavy strikes landed on his back endlessly, as if they wanted to hammer his organs to mush. Fool, leave, they are here for me. Mu Ziying struggled to push Jingzai away, but he gritted his teeth and refused to let go. Teacher Yi said, you are younger than me and I have to take care of you. Jing Zhe uttered through clenched teeth. When Mu Ziying just arrived, Yi Qing and Jing Zhe were already well acquainted. So whenever Yi Qing didn't have the time and Mu Ziying had any queries, she would instruct Jing Zhe to take care of Mu Ziying and guide her. Jing Zhe did not forget this point. The smiles on the crowd dimmed a little at the sight. This was a pure one-sided beating. Several people frowned slightly but kept silent as they didn't wish to interfere. Haul him away. Meng Yao had lost patience. She didn't care about Jing Zhe. Her target was Mu Ziying. Tugging and hitting, the teenagers managed to pry Jing Zhe's hands apart and drag Mu Ziying out. Meng Yao noticed with delight that Mu Ziying's eyes were red. What? Does your heart ache? Meng Yao was in no hurry to beat her. Seeing Mu Ziying's anxious and angry expression, an idea popped into her head. She gestured at Zhang Qiqiu, who immediately understood her meaning. He gave a few vicious punches straight into Jing Zhe's stomach. Jing Zhe instantly spurted out a mouthful of blood. Stop it. Mu Ziying was panicking. Stop. Sure. You are shameless, right? I will support you. Take off all your clothes, kneel down and kowtow to me 3 times, then run around the arena once. I will let him off then. Meng Yao was vindictive and a contemptuous sneer was on her lips. Everyone was stunned by her words. Meng Yao was truly vicious. Mu Ziying was just a young girl. This was way too malicious. She might as well force her to her death. The words made Mu Ziying pale as the light in her eyes darkened. She moved her 5 fingers and the puppet in her arms seemed to move. Sizing up the distance between Meng Yao and herself, she wanted to take 1 step forward. But she was stopped by the 2 teenagers beside her. What? You are unwilling. Meng Yao smirked and Zhang Qiqiu landed a punch right on Jing Zhe's chin. Ugh! Fresh blood spurted out of Jing Zhe's mouth again. I'll do it. Mu Ziying suddenly spoke. Meng Yao smiled. The onlookers all had varying expressions. Some were still enjoying the spectacle while some were rather disapproving of what was going on. Meng, Lei Yan wanted to speak up again but one of the teenagers from his family clan covered his mouth and dragged him away. Don't talk so much. Meng Yao and teacher Di Nua are very close. You just be asking for it. Lei Yan glared at him. Don't, dripping with blood, Jing Zhe stared at Mu Ziying as he shook his head vehemently. Mu Ziying took a deep breath, her finger trembling slightly. She clutched the front of her clothes tightly. Chapter 2154, He must have taken drugs. 1. After Mu Ziying pulled off her coat, some of the more nasty onlookers made some catcalls. Closing her eyes tightly, Mu Ziying tried to stop her shoulders from trembling. Meng Yao's eyes were full of venom. She was waiting to trample Mu Ziying's dignity bit by bit. But just as Mu Ziying was prepared to take off her inner garments, a shadow suddenly appeared over her head. A large, thick outer coat was suddenly wrapped around her as a warm palm settled down on her head. It's chilly out here. Don't catch a cold. Mu Ziying's eyes turned red at that familiar voice. Teacher Yi. Yi Qingtang wrapped her coat tightly around Mu Ziying and she scanned the crowd with frosty eyes. This kid had just left her side not long ago, and there were already people bullying her student. Who is he? The crowd was full of queries at the sudden appearance of this unknown youth. No idea, never seen him before. When Meng Yao saw Yi Qing's face, her expression instantly turned even more venomous. Her freshly healed lash marks started to tingle. Teacher Yi. The restrained Jing Zhe looked at Yi Qingtang as if he had seen a lifebuoy. Teacher. The crowd was stunned. Even Zhang Qiqiu was shocked. This youth was a teacher. But he didn't appear that powerful. I heard that our academy hired a new teacher and assigned Jing Zhe and a few others to him. One of the teenagers whispered. Zhang Qiqiu looked somewhat grim, but upon recalling that the practice arena was the only place in the Netherworld Academy where students could spar, he didn't feel that worried. He indicated for his gang to let go of Jing Zhe and walked over to stand beside Meng Yao. Having regained his freedom, Jing Zhe stumbled over to Yi Qing's side. "Teacher Yi," Jing Zhe lowered his head in shame. It was all his fault for being so useless. Yi Qingtang glanced at Jing Zhe before she reached over to wipe off a trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. "Teacher Yi, students are allowed to spar freely in the practice arena. We were just sparring with Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying just now. That shouldn't be a problem, right?" Zhang Qiqiu smiled. He had already heard about Yi Qing from Meng Yao. Yi Qing looked very calm. "Sparring?" Zhang Qiqiu nodded. "That's right. Sparring. But these two are too lousy and couldn't defend themselves against us. Surely we can't be blamed for that, right?" Yi Qing remained silent, merely glancing at Zhang Qiqiu and Meng Yao. "In that case, please continue." Yi Qing suddenly spoke up. Everyone was stunned by her words. "Continue?" What was going on? Was this new teacher a fool? Couldn't she see the wretched state that Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying were in now? And she wanted them to continue? Did this person come here to help them or step on them? Even Zhang Qiqiu and Meng Yao were stunned. They could not decipher Yi Qing's intentions. Lei Yan had secretly heaved a sigh of relief when Yi Qing appeared. He thought that Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying would be saved, but who would have expected? Was this teacher Yi crazy? Continue to spar. These two would probably die if they continued. Chapter 2155, He must have taken drugs, too. Lei Yan quietly shook his head. This teacher was indeed a useless piece of trash. He couldn't even protect his own students. Luckily he didn't stay behind back then. Nangong Lai, who had followed Yi Qing over, also had a strange expression on his face. But he remained silent. Yi Qing patted Jing Zhe's shoulder. "Go on, have a good sparring session with this student." Jing Zhe was stunned. For a moment there, he was unable to comprehend teacher Yi Qing's words. Zhang Qiqiu chuckled. "Jing Zhe, your teacher has already spoken. Don't tell me you dare to go against your teacher's orders." Jing Zhe looked somewhat nervous. He had never been a match for Zhang Qiqiu. Now, teacher Yi wanted him to spar with Zhang Qiqiu. What was going on? "Go ahead." Yi Qing glanced at Jing Zhe. Jing Zhe did not understand what teacher Yi's intentions were, but he trusted him, so he stepped forward. The crowd couldn't resist sniggering when Jing Zhe stepped out. It was no secret that Jing Zhe was the weakest student in the Netherworld Academy. But he dared to spar with Zhang Qiqiu? Wasn't he just asking for it? Stepping forward smugly, Zhang Qiqiu sized up Jing Zhe with a challenging look. He then spoke to Yi Qingtang, "Since teacher Yi asked me to do this, I will naturally obey. But accidents often happen during sparring. Don't blame me if he gets hurt." In response, Yi Qingtang only said mildly, "No problem." Even accidental deaths are considered common in sparring. Everyone was dumbstruck by this teacher Yi's words. Was teacher Yi permitting Zhang Qiqiu to kill Jing Zhe? Whose teacher was he? Jing Zhe pursed his lips, a conflicted expression on his face. He had no idea why teacher Yi was doing this. He was no match for Zhang Qiqiu. Jing Zhe's doomed. This teacher is a madman. It's Jing Zhe's bad luck to meet such a crazy person. Lei Yan shook his head, secretly relieved that he didn't stay under Yi Qing. "I won't hold back then." Zhang Qiqiu chortled as he stared straight at Jing Zhe. Jing Zhe took a deep breath, but his face was full of fear. The fight had yet to begin and he already looked like he had lost. "Jing Zhe." Yi Qingtang suddenly called out. Jing Zhe turned. "Remember everything I taught you," Yi Qingtang said. Jing Zhe nodded hesitantly. "Today, I will give you another piece of advice." Yi Qingtang looked at Jing Zhe. "An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth." Jing Zhe was taken aback. Before Jing Zhe could recompose himself, Zhang Qiqiu had thrown a punch at him. It was a powerful punch and Jing Zhe ducked clumsily. Zhang Qiqi's attack went through empty air. When the punch landed on the ground, the entire arena vibrated with shattered rock and dust flying everywhere. The punch of a Paragon-level practitioner was enough to bring down mountains and part the seas. If this punch had landed directly on Jing Zhe, all the bones in his body would instantly crumble to dust. Zhang Qiqi is really gunning for Jing Zhe's life. The crowd gasped. Many people felt that Teacher Yi was going too far. Even if he didn't want to stand up for his own student, he didn't need to hustle him to his death. Jing Zhe's face took on a bizarre expression when he saw Zhang Qiqi's all-out attack. Onlookers felt that he had dodged rather clumsily. But Jing Zhe knew that his former self would never have been able to even duck. His former self would never have been able to track Zhang Qiqi's movements. But now, he could see all his moves clearly. A strange feeling rose in Jing Zhe's heart. Chapter 2156, He Must Have Taken Drugs. 3. Zhang Qiqi turned and charged toward Jing Zhe, who retreated and ducked. The onlookers all believed that Jing Zhe was only dodging as he had no chance of counterattacking at all. But Jing Zhe's expression became increasingly shocked. He could see it, all of Zhang Qiqi's moves. He could see them all clearly. It was as if Zhang Qiqi's speed had slowed down. No, it was his own speed that had increased. Joy surged in Jing Zhe's heart at this discovery. Just at that moment, Zhang Qiqi unleashed another punch, and Jing Zhe remained standing there, unmoving. It was like he had been petrified on the spot. Oh no, even if Jing Zhe doesn't die today, he'll end up half dead. He's no match for Zhang Qiqi at all. This is just a one-sided beating. Everyone was convinced that Jing Zhe was dead meat. But right before Zhang Qiqi's fist landed on Jing Zhe, the latter's head shifted slightly. The punch brushed past his hair and went right past his head. Zhang Qiqi was shocked. What was going on? He was so close. How did he manage to dodge? Zhang Qiqi, don't go easy on him. Meng Yao cried out impatiently when she realized that Zhang Qiqi had already launched several attacks, but had yet to defeat that useless Jing Zhe. Zhang Qiqi's face darkened. He alone knew that he was not going easy at all. But on second thought, he also realized that he had already attacked several times. In the past, Jing Zhe would have already been beaten to the ground. What was going on today? The more he thought about it, the more frustrated he became. Zhang Qiqi suddenly hollered and was engulfed in red light. His body instantly doubled in size. Sky Rage Bloodline. The onlookers gasped. This was Zhang Qiqi's bloodline. He could activate all the power in his body in a short span of time. His skin and bones were transformed to become as hard as metal, while his strength increased by over 10 times. The moment he activated his bloodline, Zhang Qiqi hollered angrily and charged toward Jing Zhe. Still, Jing Zhe didn't move aside but stood his ground with narrowed eyes. As Zhang Qiqi charged toward him, everything that Yi Qing taught him rushed into his mind. He gathered his energy in his dantian and endured Zhang Qiqi's attack, at the same time launching a punch right into Zhang Qiqi's chest. Boom! A loud boom rang out as those two clashed. But the most startling sight had yet to appear. Covered in red, Zhang Qiqi was sent flying into the air by that punch. He was like a kite whose strings had been cut, flying out over 100 meters before crashing onto the wall of the arena. A huge crater was created in his wake. Silence descended over the entire arena. Jing Zhe stood there panting. Somehow, his fist was covered in a layer of red light, the same as that on Zhang Qiqi. Arg! Zhang Qiqi spurted out a mouthful of fresh blood as he collapsed out from the crater in the wall. He fell onto the ground and twitched a couple of times before he finally stopped moving. What happened? The onlookers were all dazed. The scene before them had surpassed all their expectations. Zhang Qiqi was the one being sent flying into the air. In contrast, Jing Zhe was still standing there completely unharmed. What the hell? Jing Zhe kept staring at his glowing red fist. Even up until this moment, he had yet to snap out of his trance. He had sent Zhang Qiqiu flying into the air with one punch. This was something that he had never even dreamed of. Lei Yan and Nangong Lai were completely thunderstruck. What kind of joke was this? Had Jing Zhe taken some miracle drug? When did he become so formidable? Chapter 2157, My Student, 1, Meng Yao was stunned. Although Zhang Qiqiu wasn't considered the best, how could he possibly lose to the useless Jing Zhe? Jing Zhe had yet to recover his breathing and everyone's gazes were still on them. Everything felt like a dream, it felt extremely surreal. He had won. He had defeated Zhang Qiqiu. What's going on? A low voice suddenly came from behind. The originally noisy crowd suddenly quietened down, and the crowd's gaze riveted over. All they saw was Di Nua walking over with a few other students. Looking at the chaotic scene, Di Nua's face darkened. Teacher Di. Meng Yao's eyes lit up the moment she saw Di Nua. She instantly went in front, putting on an aggrieved expression. What happened? Di Nua scanned the crowd with furrowed brows. When he spotted Yi Qing amongst the crowd, his expression changed. Teacher Yi, what are you doing here? Though Di Nua used the term teacher to address her, his entire demeanor showcased his arrogance. Teacher Di, quickly come and check on Zhang Qiqiu. Meng Yao suddenly said. Di Nua frowned. Only then did he notice the wretched figure that has collapsed against the wall. He ordered a few students to go over and help the unconscious Zhang Qiqiu up. Zhang Qiqiu had already lost consciousness at that point in time. He was barely breathing, blood staining his entire body, and he looked pathetic. Who did this to him? Di Nua asked with a cold voice. The practice arena was the only place in the Netherworld Academy where students could exchange moves and practice on each other. They knew how far they could go with each other. Di Nua's expression was unpleasant when he saw the unconscious Zhang Qiqiu. It's Jing Zhe. Jing Zhe wanted to practice with Zhang Qiqiu, but we really didn't expect him to be this ruthless. Meng Yao had a good relationship with Di Nua, and so without any hesitation, she jumped out and pushed all of the blame onto Jing Zhe. Jing Zhe had yet to get a grip over himself, and when he heard Meng Yao's words, he instantly froze. He wanted to explain himself, but Di Nua had already shot an icy gaze over. Kneel down, Di Nua ordered. Jing Zhe was taken aback. No, the speculating youths didn't dare say a word. They were all witnesses to Meng Yao and Zhang Qiqiu's provocation, but now, Jing Zhe was the one to be blamed. However, no one dared to get themselves involved in the mess. So they chose to keep quiet. Jing Zhe's face became pale and his legs started shaking. Out of respect for his teacher, he bent his knees and prepared to kneel. Before his knees touched the ground, someone grabbed him by the shoulder and made him stand up straight. Yi Qing, what do you think you are doing? Di Nua glared at Yi Qing Tang. What did Jing Zhe do wrong? Why are you making him kneel down? He was ruthless towards his peers, how could you say that he did nothing wrong? Di Nua scoffed. Yi Qing had no expression. I came to the Netherworld Academy not too long ago, but I've also heard about the practice arena. It's a place for our students to exchange moves and practice. How is Jing Zhe wrong when he was merely practicing with Zhang Qiqiu? Chapter 2158, My Student, 2, he should have known when to stop even if they were just practicing, Di Nua said coldly. With Di Nua's support, Meng Yao became even more aggressive in her provocations. Teacher Yi, how is that even considered practicing? Jing Zhe was clearly trying to end Zhang Qiqiu's life. Yi Qing Tang looked coldly at Meng Yao, who tried to distort the truth. End his life? The one who wanted to end someone else's life was Zhang Qiqiu and not Jing Zhe. If she hadn't arrived in time, Mu Ziying and Zhang Qiqiu would have tortured Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying to death. So it seemed that they planned to disregard her. Teacher Yi, this is the martial arts faculty. Furthermore, you're not an official teacher here. Even if you are, you shouldn't be meddling in the martial arts faculty's affairs. Di Nua spoke up. He wasn't planning on sparing any mercy. This youth was an eyesore to him ages ago, and it so happened that he caused some trouble on his territory today. Take Jing Zhe to the discipline hall. Di Nuo didn't bother with Yi Qing. He merely gave the orders for Jing Zhe to be taken away. This had nothing to do with brother Jing Zhe. Meng Yao and Zhang Qiqiu attacked me first. Mu Ziying didn't want Jing Zhe to take the blame and spoke up immediately. Di Nuo's expression darkened when he saw Mu Ziying in a pathetic state, with a huge coat covering her body. Mu Ziying. Even if you're young and ignorant, you should know that it's against the Netherworld Academy's rules to be dressed in this fashion. Di Nuo's scolding made Meng Yao and the others snicker. Di Nuo was most concerned about the student's capabilities. Jing Zhe was weak and Di Nuo naturally didn't like him. Though Mu Ziying was not too bad, she was constantly distracted during cultivation and had an eccentric personality. He wasn't able to control her, and so she naturally wasn't one of his favorites. What the fuck, Teacher Di Nuo is too much. He didn't even bother to ask about what had happened and he's already assigning blame. Lei Yan was getting more aggravated by the domineering Di Nuo. Likewise, Di Nuo was also unhappy with him all along since he was lowly skilled and played around too much. Stop talking already. If Teacher Di hears you, you'll be in trouble too. Another youth tried to shut Lei Yan up. Lei Yan's lips twitched and he stopped talking even if he was still unhappy with Di Nuo's domineering ways. Everyone knew what had happened, but Di Nuo seemed like he wasn't planning to ask at all. After all, they were useless in his eyes and no matter what they did, it would be wrong. Mu Ziying's face turned pale and she bit down on her lips after being lectured by Di Nuo. Yi Qingtang's heart sank when she saw Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying's response. Right when Jing Zhe was about to be taken away, Yi Qingtang pulled Jing Zhe behind her. Teacher Yi, you are not a teacher at the martial arts faculty. Please leave right now, don't even try to meddle in Jing Zhe's affairs, Di Nuo warned. I'm not a teacher at the martial arts faculty, so I naturally won't try to get involved. That made Di Nuo relax his guard a little, but when Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying heard that, their hearts sank. They understood her though. After all, she was new to the Netherworld Academy. Why would she go against Di Nuo just for them, especially when they weren't skilled at all? Chapter 2159, My Student, 3, Nangong Lai and Lei Yan stood among the crowd and witnessed it all. They couldn't help but frown. If Yi Qing were to just stay out of it, Di Nuo would definitely punish Jing Zhe heavily. This incident would probably give Di Nuo reason to expel Jing Zhe from the Netherworld Academy. Right when everyone thought that Yi Qing was going to stay out of it, she suddenly spoke. However, Jing Zhe is my student. Naturally, I must be involved. Yi Qingtang's words surprised everyone. She was going to go against Di Nuo. Jing Zhe's eyes widened, surprise written all over his face. Yi Qing stood in front of him and though he had a slender figure, it was akin to a tall wall that protected him. Yi Qing, don't push your luck, Di Nuo berated. Yi Qingtang didn't want to waste time talking to him and she instantly turned around, preparing to take Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying with her. Di Nuo instantly charged over when he saw her leave. Right when he was about to strike, Jing Zhe felt something warm coming out from his chest. The red light that in his fist started spreading all over his body. In an instant, he collapsed on the ground and started convulsing. Yi Qingtang was shocked. She froze for a moment before she quickly helped Jing Zhe up. But Jing Zhe had already lost consciousness and did not respond to her at all. Leave Jing Zhe behind, Di Nuo ordered. Yi Qingtang only ignored his words. The academy handed them to me and I am their teacher. It is my responsibility to take care of them. If you're not happy with it, you can report me to the vice president. After making herself clear, she took Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying with her and prepared to leave. Di Nuo didn't expect Yi Qing to pull the vice president into the picture. After all, the vice president was the one who handed these students to Yi Qing and they were personally chosen by Di Nuo. When Meng Yao saw that Yi Qing prepared to leave and Di Nuo's dark expression, she instantly realized that they were on bad terms. She suddenly said, Teacher Yi, hold on. didn't you mention that it's only practicing? Why are you leaving now? We only had one round earlier and Zhang Qiqiu lost. I haven't had the chance to challenge Mu Ziying yet. Though Mu Ziying couldn't figure out why Zhang Qiqiu lost to Jing Zhe, with Di Nuo present, she naturally wouldn't let go of the chance to cause trouble for Mu Ziying. Also, she would be embarrassing Yi Qing if she defeated Mu Ziying in Yi Qing's presence. That way she would be killing two birds with one stone. How could she ever let go of such a good opportunity? Yi Qingtang stopped in her tracks. On the other hand, Mu Ziying appeared emotionless while standing beside Yi Qingtang. She just looked at the overbearing Meng Yao coldly. Before Yi Qingtang could even say anything, Di Nuo spoke. Meng Yao, stop your nonsense. Teacher Di, Meng Yao was stunned. How is she even fit to challenge you? Di Nuo said coldly. Meng Yao froze for a moment before she smiled. This lousy Yi Qing had pulled the vice president into the picture and Di Nuo couldn't possibly keep Jing Zhe with him. There was no way he was going to let it slide. A useless person like Mu Ziying will eventually have to leave the Netherworld Academy. You have to train harder, and if you achieve higher levels in the future, then you can get a recommendation from me to join the Inter-Academy competition. The overbearing tone Di Nuo spoke in only highlighted the superiority he felt with regards to the matter. Chapter 2160, Awakened Bloodline, 1. The eyes of Meng Yao and the others lit up at the mention of the Inter-Academy competition. Only the best students in Netherworld Academy could participate in the Inter-Academy competition. Meng Yao never expected that she would have the chance. In fact, Meng Yao's talents were not that outstanding. But Di Nuo had already received news that Meng Yao's family had obtained some rare elixirs and was prepared to use them on her. They could rapidly increase her powers. Meng Yao, you are someone who will have the chance to compete in the Inter-Academy competition. Don't waste your time on these useless fools. Di Nuo did not mention Mu Ziying's name, but every single word he uttered was aimed straight at her, crushing her dignity in front of all who were present. Face turning pale, Mu Ziying could only lower her head in silence. Glaring at the pale-faced Mu Ziying, Di Nuo said disdainfully, Teacher Yi, you can leave now. Bring your incompetent students with you and leave as soon as possible. Don't disrupt the cultivation of other students. Yi Qingtang smiled. She had been at many academies and sects in her previous life and was used to the underhanded tactics and dirty politics of such places. But now, the ones being bullied were her students. Incompetent? Yi Qingtang's face turned chilly. The name list for the Inter-Academy competition is not confirmed yet. No one knows if your students or mine will be selected. Di Nuo was taken aback by Yi Qingtang's words. Going by her words, she wanted to let this bunch of useless fools enter the Inter-Academy competition. Teacher Yi must be joking. Only the top students will be selected to enter the Inter-Academy competition. If those students of yours are selected, it can only mean that there is no one else left in the Netherworld Academy. The onlookers also felt that Yi Qing was spouting nonsense. Not only was this teacher new, but his cultivation level was also pitifully low. Plus those students under him were a ragtag bunch. Yet he still dared to talk about the Inter-Academy competition. We will see. Yi Qingtang spoke mildly. His breezy attitude ignited Di Nuo's anger. Since Teacher Yi is so confident, let us make a bet. If any single one of your students can enter the Inter-Academy competition, we will consider it as your win. How about that? All right. What does Teacher Di Nuo wish to bet on? Yi Qingtang agreed swiftly. Everyone felt that Teacher Yi was crazy. Which one of his students would be able to make the list? The only one who was considered somewhat promising was Qin Feng. But not only was Qin Feng's cultivation level not improving, it was even declining. If you lose, leave the Netherworld Academy immediately, and don't smear our academy's reputation. A person like you is not fit to be a teacher at our academy. Di Nuo narrowed his eyes. All right. But don't worry, I won't need you to leave the academy if you lose. I just want you to kneel and apologize to my students in public. Yi Qingtang smiled. Deal. Di Noa accepted the condition. Yi Qing and his lousy bunch of students wished to enter the inter-academy competition. It was a completely ridiculous notion. The onlookers also believed that this new teacher was aiming for the impossible. How was she to achieve that? What a joke. Not wishing to prolong the exchange, Yi Qingtang just turned and left with the unconscious Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying. She had no time to waste on Di Noa. Jing Zhe's body temperature was rising and she had to check his condition to find out what the hell had happened. Chapter 2161, Awakened Bloodline, 2. After Yi Qingtang and her students left, Di Noa ordered the rest of the people to continue their cultivation. It was only then that the gathered crowd finally dispersed. I already felt it was impossible that Jing Zhe managed to beat Zhang Qiqiu so easily. So Jing Zhe himself actually suffered internal injuries. Some of the teenagers were still discussing the earlier fight. What do you mean? You still don't understand? Who doesn't know about Jing Zhe's weak powers? But he managed to beat Zhang Qiqiu. I found it very strange until we saw that Jing Zhe suddenly fainted. His body was covered in red light. Isn't that red light the same as Zhang Qiqiu's bloodline aura? The teenagers continued to discuss. They thought that Jing Zhe's powers had increased but then realized that he had suffered serious internal injuries himself. This cleared up quite a bit of their initial shock. As the crowd continued to discuss, Lei Yan and Nangong Lai stood by the side, quietly listening. The two of them had a completely different line of thinking from the crowd. Seeing that no one was watching, Lei Yan slipped out from the practice arena. But he ended up bumping into Nangong Lai the moment he left the martial arts faculty. Are you going to find Teacher Yi? Nangong Lai grinned at the dark-faced Lei Yan. The corners of Lei Yan's lips twitched slightly. But Nangong Lai continued grinning. Brother, relax. I was thinking the same thing as you. Let's go together. Everyone else believed that Jing Zhe's victory was a fluke. He had suffered serious injuries himself and it was just sheer luck that he managed to land one punch on Zhang Qiqiu. But Lei Yan and Nangong Lai were well aware that if Jing Zhe's abilities had not increased at all, even if Zhang Qiqiu just stood there and let Jing Zhe hit him, there was no way Jing Zhe could have sent him flying. Jing Zhe's powers had definitely improved. Lei Yan and Nangong Lai's powers were considered subpar within the Netherworld Academy. They had previously disregarded Yi Qing, believing that the Academy had hired him just to make fools out of them. But, after today's incident, they no longer had the same opinion. If even Jing Zhe could improve over such a short period of time, wouldn't they have the same opportunity? The two of them knew that the Academy was already prepared to kick them out. Teacher Ye's appearance might be an opportunity for them. Separately, both of them arrived at the same conclusion. Having reached an implicit understanding of each other, the two guys headed toward Yi Qingtang's classroom together. Meanwhile, Yi Qingtang and her two students had already arrived back at the classroom. Jing Zhe's temperature was still rising and sweat poured out of his body. His clothes were already completely soaked. Mu Ziying stood by the side, her face pale as she clutched her own puppet tightly. Although she had remained silent the whole time, she was looking at Jing Zhe with eyes filled with guilt. Teacher Yi, it's all my fault. If not for me, senior brother Jing Zhe would never. Mu Ziying's voice became softer and softer, her guilt nearly engulfing her little soul. Teacher Yi, did senior brother Jing Zhe suffer some internal injuries? Yi Qingtang did not immediately reply to Mu Ziying. She was carefully analyzing Jing Zhe's condition. Initially she had thought that Jing Zhe had suffered some internal injuries. And was surprised. This was because she did not detect any signs of Zhang Qiqiu having caused serious damage to Jing Zhe. But Yi Qingtang was stunned after analyzing Jing Zhe's body. Jing Zhe was not injured at all. On the contrary, his bloodline was awakening. Yi Qingtang had Jing Zhe practice bloodline activation techniques over this period. In today's fight, Zhang Qiqiu had attacked with the power of his bloodline and somehow it had accelerated the awakening of Jing Zhe's bloodline. Private Bin, because ignorance is bliss 1. 3. 2. Private Bin is a minimalist, Open source online paste bin where the server has zero knowledge of pasted. Chapter 2162, Awakened Bloodline, 3. The awakening of a bloodline was a serious matter. Yi Qingtang would have to activate the deity ocean in her body to guide the gradual awakening of Jing Ze's bloodline. This was to prevent his body from exploding from the sudden power surge of an awakened bloodline. But as Yi Qingtang guided the boy, she realized that something was not quite right. She discovered two types of bloodlines in Jing Ze's body. One of them was Zhang Qiqi's Sky Rage bloodline. However, the Sky Rage bloodline's power was quite weak and was gradually being absorbed by the other bloodline. The discovery left Yi Qingtang extremely shocked. She had the devouring bloodline with its trademark ability to devour. However, Jing Ze's second bloodline was different from the devouring bloodline. The devouring bloodline had the ability to absorb and refine another person's energy to become its own. But Jing Ze's second bloodline had absorbed his opponent's energy to replicate a counterfeit bloodline. Yi Qingtang had heard of this kind of bloodline before. This was a high-level bloodline called the Divine Hidden Bloodline. The Divine Hidden Bloodline could replicate an opponent's power during a fight and make use of it. The counterfeit bloodline could even display up to 80% of the original's power. The Divine Hidden Bloodline was very rare. In her past life, Yi Qingtang had only heard of one person who had this divine hidden bloodline, and it had been that evil man with the same name as Jing Ze, the Yun Mian Palace Master. Previously, Yi Qingtang thought that Jing Ze just happened to have the same name as that evil man. But the appearance of his divine hidden bloodline had Yi Qingtang re-evaluating her initial opinion. Could it be? Jing Ze would become the Yun Mian Palace Master 300 years later. Yi Qingtang, she was really unable to picture this timid Jing Ze as the malicious murderer 300 years into the future. But the same bloodline, the same name, as well as the same age, surely all of this was too much to be a coincidence, right? Yi Qingtang mulled over it before arriving at a surmisation. During this period of her previous life, the world had yet to discover any bloodline awakening methods. As a result, Jing Ze was kicked out of the Netherworld Academy because of his poor abilities. And after Jing Ze had to leave the Netherworld Academy, he must have encountered some major event that changed his character. Thereafter, his bloodline was awakened and the second domain was introduced to the malevolent Yun Mian Palace Master. Yi Qingtang seemed to recall someone mentioning then that the Yun Mian Palace Master's family had been butchered by enemies in his early years. His beloved little sister had her torso sliced apart right in front of him. The gruesome image made Yi Qingtang frown at the thought. How many cruel things must have happened to Jing Ze to change this kind, obedient boy into such an evil person 300 years later? Teacher Yi, Mu Ziying noticed that Yi Qingtang had remained silent and had a grave expression on her face. The rims of Mu Ziying's eyes turned red as she believed that something must be very wrong with Jing Ze. Finally, Yi Qingtang snapped out of her reverie and looked at the red-eyed Mu Ziying. She immediately consoled her. Jing Ze is not injured. His bloodline is awakening. Mu Ziying was delighted at the news. Senior brother's bloodline is awakening. Yi Qingtang was just about to nod when she suddenly heard two muffled voices from outside the classroom. She turned to see Lei Yan and Nangong Lai, their faces filled with shock and their eyes bulging from disbelief. What did they hear? Didn't Jing Ze have no bloodline? What was this about his bloodline awakening? Chapter 2163, Failing to Recognize a Formidable Person. 1. Nangong Lai and Lei Yan had wanted to come and take a look at the situation. They believed that if even a person like Jing Ze could improve, they would do even better. But this news was just too shocking. Jing Ze's bloodline had awakened. What the hell, bro, ahem. Teacher Yi, did you say that Jing Ze's bloodline has awakened? What does this mean? I thought that he doesn't have a bloodline. Lei Yan was befuddled and full of queries. He was even addressing Yi Qingtang with a certain degree of respect now. Yi Qingtang was finally assured after seeing Jing Ze's condition stabilized. She then looked at the two brats who suddenly appeared, feeling rather exasperated by their questions. Who told you that Jing Ze doesn't have a bloodline? Everyone in the academy knows, Lei Yan said. His bloodline was just dormant. It's not that he doesn't have one. Yi Qingtang sighed. She now realized that Lei Yan's level of intelligence was quite worrying. The Lei Tang family was a great family clan. How did they produce such a foolish descendant? Nangong Lai thought for a moment before suddenly coming to a realization. I know about dormant bloodlines. Someone mentioned this before, but isn't a dormant bloodline something very troublesome? It is very difficult to awaken most dormant bloodlines. Either some major trigger or fortuitous encounter is required. Jing Zhe didn't have either during this period of time. Don't tell me he managed to trigger the awakening of his bloodline just by beating Zhang Qiqiu. Nangong Lai believed that the fight must have been too stimulating for Jing Zhe. A dormant bloodline could lead to stagnation of one's abilities. This could explain why Jing Zhe didn't improve after reaching the Paragon's 6th heaven level. While Nangong Lai's reasoning was not without merit, but it was incomplete. Zhang Qiqiu had used the power of his bloodline to attack Jing Zhe. It was true that this might have been enough to trigger Jing Zhe's bloodline. But without Yi Qingtang's prior teachings, even if Zhang Qiqiu beat up Jing Zhe to a pulp with his bloodline power, Jing Zhe's bloodline might have remained dormant if it wanted to. Why are you two here? Yi Qingtang gazed coolly at those two curious Georges. Bombarded by their questions, she went to sit down by the side. Lei Yan and Nangong Lai exchanged looks, conflicted expressions on their faces. Initially, they only had a vague interest in coming back to see what Yi Qingtang had to teach. But now, after discovering that Jing Zhe's bloodline had been awakened, their vague interest had deepened exponentially. Jing Zhe had been at the Netherworld Academy for quite a number of years. Even so, none of the teachers realized that Jing Zhe had a dormant bloodline. And just a short period of time after meeting Yi Qingtang, his bloodline had been awakened. This teacher did have some skills. Lei Yan felt rather embarrassed to speak. After all, he had scorned Yi Qingtang earlier. It was really a blow to his pride to come crawling back now. The youth was still caught in his dilemma when Nangong Lai suddenly spoke up. Teacher Yi, to be honest, your earlier confrontation with Teacher Di Nua motivated me. Previously, I felt that I was already a useless person and didn't want to trouble you. But now, I can see that you are a teacher who will not give up on any student. This has made me realize just how narrow-minded I was. In reality, I have always wanted to learn from you. I hope you will not dismiss me. Nangong Lai tried to twist his earlier contempt of Yi Qingtang into him feeling unworthy of her teaching. Chapter 2164, Failing to Recognize a Formidable Person, 2, This guy could really flip the truth from black to white with words alone. Somehow, he even managed to throw in a whole slew of flattery. Lei Yan gaped at Nangong Lai, who appeared completely unabashed. Formidable. Why did he never notice just how thick Nangong Lai's skin was? No wonder he couldn't beat Nangong Lai. With skin that thick, his own hand might break from hitting it. Hadn't Nangong Lai been the first person to leave? Now he was putting up such a major pretense. Oh. Is that so? Of course Yi Qingtang knew what Nangong Lai was trying to do. But she was not the kind of person to bear a grudge against a brat like him. She just found it all very amusing. Yes, I wonder if Teacher Yi will allow me to come back. Nangong Lai put on an especially sincere and fervent expression. Lei Yan gasped. He was truly amazed by Nangong Lai's wonderful acting skills. He had been wrong. If he knew this chump was so disgusting, he would never have fought with him. It was too revolting. How ridiculous could one get? Did he really think Teacher Yi was a fool? After dismissing Teacher Yi earlier, there was no way he would be accepted back. Since you are so sincere, you can come back anytime. Yi Qingtang's words were like a splash of cold water on Lei Yan's face. Lei Yan, Nangong Lai smiled. Teacher Yi is so magnanimous. May you live a long life. What the hell? Lei Yan never expected Nangong Lai's bootlicking to be so effective. Seeing that Nangong Lai had managed to weasel his way back into Yi Qingtang's side, Lei Yan decided to set his pride aside. Teacher Yi, damn, he really couldn't force those words out. Do you wish to come back too? Yi Qingtang asked lazily. Lei Yan's eyes brightened and he nodded furiously. All right. Yi Qingtang also nodded. Her bet with Di Noa complemented her original reason for entering the Netherworld Academy. However, she was unfamiliar with the Netherworld Academy's selection criteria for the inter-academy competition. She could not go wrong by casting a wider net. Inside, Lei Yan was nearly crying with joy. Their teacher was really benevolent. Teacher Yi, don't worry, from today onwards, you are our boss. I will listen to whatever you say. I will cultivate obediently and will not spoil your name. Lei Yan thumped his chest as he swore. Yi Qingtang, boss? No problem. Boss, what should we start with today? Nangong Lai grinned. Nangong Lai and Lei Yan did not have good impressions of teachers in general. They were delinquents and teachers typically treated them with derision. As a result, these two naturally ended up with a bad impression of all teachers. Anyway, this teacher Yi did not look that much older than them. Calling him boss also felt more friendly and familiar. Boss, are you really betting with Di Noa? Nangong Lai quietly asked. Yi Qingtang nodded. Nangong Lai kept silent for a moment. Boss is awesome. With your abilities, it won't be a problem for all of us to enter the inter-academy competition. A pity that Qin Feng and Yun Qin didn't come back. Otherwise, the 6 of us would be just the right number. If all of us get in, you'll be able to go to the inter-academy competition too. Nangong Lai continued to butter her up, even if he didn't really believe his own words. Yi Qingtang was taken aback. There are also conditions for teachers to go to the inter-academy competition. Nangong Lai nodded. Teachers need at least 5 of their students to be selected. Yi Qingtang scanned the classroom. Including the still unconscious Jing Zhe, there were only 4 students. Yi Qingtang. Chapter 2165, Failing to Recognize a Formidable Person, 3, Boss? Yi Qingtang sighed and waved at Lei Yan and Nangong Lai. The two of them bustled over. With one hand on each of their shoulders, Yi Qingtang said gravely, I have an important task for you too. Whatever you need. Boss, we await your instructions. Lei Yan. Yes. Go and get Qin Feng back here, Yi Qingtang said. Lei Yan, Nangong Lai, go and get Yun Chen. Yi Qingtang continued her instructions. No problem. I will go and find Yun Chen immediately. Nangong Lai patted his chest and shot off. But Lei Yan's face was filled with a conflicted expression. Qin Feng, could he request to change his target with Nangong Lai? Soon after, Lei Yan and Nangong Lai went forth to find their intended targets. Yi Qingtang remained behind to continue observing Jing Zhe's condition. The awakening of a bloodline would bring about certain side effects. Jing Zhe was still unconscious and Yi Qingtang asked Mu Ziying to go back and take a rest first. After all, the little girl also endured quite a bit of trauma today. But Mu Ziying only shook her head stubbornly. You are able to defeat Meng Yao. Why didn't you resist? Yi Qingtang looked at Mu Ziying, who was sitting in front of her. The cultivation levels of Mu Ziying and Meng Yao were similar. And after Yi Qingtang's teaching, Yi Qingtang knew very well that Mu Ziying would definitely beat Meng Yao in a fight. Mu Ziying lowered her head and kept silent. She just continued to hug her puppet tightly. Yi Qingtang felt that there was some hidden compartment inside Mu Ziying's heart, locking up all her thoughts inside. Since Mu Ziying was unwilling to explain, Yi Qingtang decided not to force her. She just let her be. But after keeping silent for a long time, Mu Ziying suddenly spoke up. Teacher Yi. I don't want to cause any trouble. More importantly, she didn't want to cause trouble for Teacher Yi. Yi Qingtang gave a gentle sigh. Mu Ziying was extremely introverted, but she was also exceptionally soft-hearted. Mu Ziying also heaved a secret sigh of relief on seeing that Yi Qingtang didn't continue to interrogate her. But after looking at the unconscious Jing Zhe, a conflicted expression crossed Mu Ziying's face. If she continued in this way, all those around her would eventually be implicated. Jing Ze's temperature finally returned to normal after a long time. At this moment, Nangong Lai was leading the good-natured Yun Chen back to the classroom. Although Yun Chen had decided to leave then, he behaved very respectfully toward Yi Qingtang. "Teacher Yi." Yun Chen greeted her politely. He appeared to be very respectful, but in reality, he exuded a hint of aloofness. This was a teenager who looked exceptionally gentle on the outside, but Yi Qingtang could feel a hint of arrogance in his bearing. Yun Chen had a naturally weak body and it was very difficult for him to improve his martial arts. Nevertheless, he was talented in refining elixirs. He used to be a student at the spiritual cultivation faculty, but because of his physical condition, he was transferred to the medical faculty. Everything had been going well, but Yun Chen's bloodline made it difficult for him to refine elixirs. He had the drifting cloud bloodline, which was actually a good bloodline. It was a pity that the drifting cloud bloodline made one's aura to surge and ebb. When this happened during the refinement of elixirs, it would make the elixir very unstable. For elixirs which could usually be refined after 3 tries, Yun Chen would need at least 10 attempts before succeeding. As a result, Yun Chen had also fallen into the Netherworld Academy's blacklist, with subtle signs that he would soon be kicked out. Yi Qingtang nodded at Yun Chen. Qin Feng had yet to arrive and she was in no hurry to speak first. Chapter 2166, 10 Moves, 1, Yun Chen wasn't anxious. He merely took a seat, his gaze riveting on the unconscious Jing Ze. Nangong Lai was acquainted with Yun Chen and once he noticed Yun Chen was looking at Jing Ze, he asked, "Do you know what happened to Jing Ze?" Yun Chen shook his head. His bloodline was awakened just now. Surprise flashed across Yun Chen's gentle eyes. He hadn't expected Jing Ze to have a bloodline. Realization dawned on his features as Yun Chen finally figured out everything. With Nangong Lai's personality, he couldn't possibly return to a teacher whom he disliked if nothing special happened. Not only that, Nangong Lai had even dragged him over too. Yun Chen couldn't help but look at Yi Qingtang with a speculative gaze. Time passed and Nangong Lai sat in a corner lazily. Lei Yan and Qin Feng were nowhere to be seen. He couldn't help but comment, "Boss, you're putting Lei Yan on the spot by getting him to bring Qin Feng to us." "Why?" Yi Qingtang was perplexed. "Do you not know that Lei Yan is incapable but has an ill temper? He was extremely arrogant when he first came to the academy and even had a conflict with Qin Feng. His lackeys ended up suffering a beating from Qin Feng." Nangong Lai wasted no time in exposing Lei Yan completely. After that incident, Lei Yan was somewhat fearful of Qin Feng. Even when Qin Feng became less powerful, Lei Yan remained fearful. Yi Qingtang had never known about the bad blood between them. However, she wasn't surprised at all after thinking about Lei Yan's temper. That was exactly what he would do. "Nangong Lai, what nonsense are you talking about?" Right after Nangong Lai said all of that, Lei Yan shouted over and his voice was heard in the classroom. Lei Yan hadn't expected Nangong Lai to start exposing everything about him right after he stepped away. Qin Feng stood behind Lei Yan, without any expression on his face. He scanned the classroom with a poker face on. "Boss, I brought Qin Feng over." "Don't listen to Nangong Lai's nonsense," Lei Yan defended himself. Yi Qingtang nodded and her gaze fell on Qingtang. Their eyes met. "Anything I can help you with?" "I invited the two of you over because I wanted to know if you're willing to be taught by me." Qin Feng didn't say anything while Yun Chen also remained silent. It was obvious that they weren't convinced a Paragon 6th heaven level teacher would be able to teach them much. After all, Qin Feng remained at Paragon 8th heaven level even after he regressed, that's 2 levels higher than Yi Qingtang. If there's nothing else, I'll head back first. Qin Feng wasn't planning to say anything more to this lowly skilled teacher. He turned around to leave. When Lei Yan saw Qin Feng turn around to leave, he panicked. "Don't." He had to do so much to drag him over. "Qin Feng, you're leaving just like that?" Boss hasn't finished talking yet. Before Lei Yan could finish talking, Qin Feng shot a baleful glare that made Lei Yan shudder. Fear consumed him. Fuck, his gaze was intimidating. Hold on, Yi Qingtang suddenly said. Qin Feng paused, looking at Yi Qingtang without any expression. Chapter 2167, 10 Moves, 2, Teacher Yi, do you really think that you can teach me? Qin Feng spoke with a monotonous voice that served to remind Yi Qingtang of the difference between them. Yi Qingtang was far from him in terms of capabilities, how could she become his teacher? Qin Feng, you're too much, Nangong Lai commented appeasingly. But Qin Feng wasn't affected at all. After all, as the genius of the Qin family, the Netherworld Academy previously had high hopes for him. He received guidance from elite teachers, and even the president of the martial arts faculty personally guided him along for an extended period of time. Qin Feng was already ahead of all teachers of other faculties in terms of martial arts. A teacher's main responsibility is to guide the student along, Yi Qingtang said. Qin Feng didn't bother with her. Teacher Yi, I don't intend to listen to your preaching. You don't need to waste any time on me. You just need to focus on teaching them. Qin Feng was already somewhat annoyed, judging from his expression. This brat is pretty stubborn. Yi Qingtang looked at Qin Feng and she wasn't angry at all. Qin Feng could definitely afford to be haughty, but now, he's at his wit's end. If you don't want to stay, sure, Yi Qingtang said before Qin Feng was about to leave. If you can defeat Lei Yan using only 10 moves, you don't need to come anymore. Everyone was dumbstruck by Yi Qingtang's words. Qin Feng was baffled as he looked at Yi Qingtang before his gaze riveted on the one who lost to him, Lei Yan. Lei Yan, boss, why must you do this to me? 10 moves. What a joke. He was at Paragon 6th heaven level while Qin Feng was 2 levels higher than him. Don't even mention 10 moves. Qin Feng could use just 1 move to win. Boss, Lei Yan was about to burst into tears. When did he offend boss? Why did he do this to him? Okay. Qin Feng agreed and walked towards Lei Yan. Clearly frightened, Lei Yan immediately took 2 steps back, looking at Qin Feng with a horrified look on his face. Don't come over. It's not time yet, Yi Qingtang suddenly said. Qin Feng paused, furrowing his brows. He had no more patience for this teacher anymore. Did it look like he had ample time to waste? You'll challenge Lei Yan in 10 days. You'll win if you can subdue him within 10 moves, Yi Qingtang said. Qin Feng's brows knitted. He glanced at Yi Qingtang and without saying a word, he turned around to leave. Lei Yan heaved a sigh of relief. That was a close shave. Yunchen witnessed the entire scene and he glanced at Yi Qingtang with a complicated look. This was a fight that was impossible to win. After all, the disparity between Lei Yan and Qin Feng's power was huge. 1 move was all it takes to determine who would win. Brother, I have high hopes for you. You have to get past 10 moves. Nangong Lai gloated happily while patting Lei Yan's shoulder. Pushing away Nangong Lai's hand irritably, Lei Yan and around to look at Yi Qingtang aggrievedly. Boss, I can't hold in anymore. Though it was embarrassing, he had to admit that he was no match for Qin Feng. Yi Qingtang looked at Lei Yan's aggrieved face and smiled. I'll give you a boot camp from today onwards. If in 10 days Lei Yan still couldn't take 10 moves from Qin Feng, there would be no way she could stay in the Netherworld Academy. Chapter 2168, 10 Moves, 3, Lei Yan was both delighted and sad upon hearing that Yi Qing would be giving him some special training. And yet, Yi Qing's premise for giving this special training was that Lei Yan had to endure a beating at the end. This was all too overwhelming. Even if Teacher Yi was a god descended from heaven, he could not possibly make Lei Yan strong enough within 10 days to fight against the 8 heaven-level Qin Feng. Lei Yan felt that Yi Qing was really reaching for the stars this time. But since he got the opportunity to undergo special training, at most, he would just have to endure another beating by Qin Feng in 10 days. It could be said that Lei Yan was carrying a do-or-die attitude. Of course, he couldn't help linking this to the first time he met Yiqing, if he had done anything overly offensive such that the teacher was using this opportunity to take revenge. Meanwhile, Yunqin remained silent at the side. Yiqing Tang was not anxious about that. She knew that Yunqian's line of thinking was similar to Qin Feng's, and she was also in no hurry to prove herself today. She would let Yunqin come and observe the fight in 10 days. He could decide whether to stay on then. Yunqin could not figure out this new teacher. He didn't say anything much but left after politely bidding her farewell. Yiqing Tang called Nangong Lai and Lei Yan over and asked them about their past cultivation methods. She then offered them specific advice on how to improve. The two of them weren't too invested at first. But the more Yiqing explained, the more engrossed they became. It was especially the case for Lei Yan. Yiqing completely debunked all his past cultivation methods, and then offered him a brand new way to cultivate. His eyes nearly popped out in amazement as he listened. These were all novel changes to martial art techniques which they had never heard before. Lei Yan, you started learning martial arts too late, so some techniques are no longer suitable for you. You need to forget every foundational technique you learned while you were with your family clan. Start afresh. Yiqing Tang was completely flabbergasted by the Leitang family's methods after understanding Lei Yan's situation. The Leitang family was not wrong in arranging for Lei Yan to learn those foundational techniques. But it was just that Lei Yan was already too old for it. Lei Yan had been in his teens when he first officially started martial arts. Yet, he was practicing techniques made for children aged 4 to 5. It should be pointed out that the physical body of a teen was way more developed than that of a 5-year-old child. Practicing those foundational techniques had been just a waste of time. Outsiders believed that Lei Yan was lacking in innate talent. But Yiqing Tang was of another view. Lei Yan's innate talents were pretty good, but he lacked a suitable mentor. He ended up going in one big circle, such that he was only at the Paragon 6th heaven level now. With his innate talent, he should be capable of more. Yiqing Tang told Lei Yan about the techniques that were more suited for his cultivation situation. These were techniques that had been improved over a period of 300 years into the future. Ah, yes, Lei Yan was listening attentively. He kept nodding, desperately wishing that he had a notebook to record every single word that Yiqing was saying. Who said that their teacher was a useless fool? He would kill them all. Even he could tell that Yiqing's understanding of martial arts was to be treasured. It was like he had struck a windfall. Jing Zhe stirred. His body felt like it was suffused with a strange yet familiar aura. His last memories were of the practice arena, but when he looked around him, he realized that he was back in the classroom. And two additional figures, who weren't supposed to be here, were also inside the classroom. Lei Yan. Nangong Lai. Jing Zhe was stunned. What was going on? He had been unconscious for just a short period of time. Why were these two fiends here now? Chapter 2169, Training, 1. A dazed expression remained on Jing Zhe's face as Mu Ziying told him what happened after he fainted. Jing Zhe was immediately dumbstruck. Lei Yan was going to fight Qin Feng. Had he gone mad? Jing Zhe, you are awake. Yiqing Tang noticed that Jing Zhe had come around and temporarily set Nangong Lai and Lei Yan aside. Teacher Yi, Jing Zhe was still groggy. How does your body feel? Yiqing Tang asked. Jing Zhe snapped out of his trance and carefully analyzed the condition of his own body. He gasped. Bloodline. He had a bloodline. His bloodline had awakened. At this moment, Jing Zhe finally noticed the new strangeness in his body. It was a major surprise. You have the divine hidden bloodline. It is a high-level bloodline. As Yiqing Tang looked at the flabbergasted Jing Zhe, she really couldn't picture him as the evil Yun Mian Palace master. In this life, Jing Zhe's bloodline had been awakened earlier, so his powers would only continue to grow. Would his destiny change because of that? Yiqing Tang had no idea. She explained to Jing Zhe about the divine hidden bloodline, who listened in disbelief. His own bloodline had really awakened. After his bloodline was activated, Jing Ze's long-suppressed cultivation level surged. He was shocked to realize that during his sleep, his cultivation level already shot up to Paragon 7th Heaven level. Surprise after surprise, Jing Ze nearly fainted from joy. From the side, Nangong Lai and Lei Yan observed the newly improved Jing Ze. They exchanged looks and saw their thoughts reflected in each other's eyes. How long had Jing Ze been under Yiqing? Half a month at the most. But, he had improved by one whole level. He had also gotten a bloodline. Where did this boss come from? Jing Ze, congratulations. Nangong Lai grinned and cupped his fists at Jing Ze. He was going to cling on to this boss for life now. Nothing else mattered. Beside him, Lei Yan also congratulated Jing Ze. From now on, you all will come here every afternoon. I will teach you about martial arts, Yiqing Tang said. Yes, yes, yes. The two guys nodded eagerly. All they wanted to do now was to hang on to Yiqing all day long. They might evolve into brand new improved versions of themselves. In future, Jing Ze will be your senior brother. Yiqing Tang smiled. Of course. Senior brother, you are awesome. Nangong Lai addressed Jing Ze without any qualms. Jing Ze immediately blushed. He was a useless person mocked by all. To think that he was now someone's senior brother. And Ziying will be your senior sister, Yiqing Tang continued. Nangong Lai, Lei Yan, looking at the petite Mu Ziying, the two guys looked rather conflicted. Mu Ziying couldn't resist chuckling. Alright, you guys go about your own business. Come back tomorrow for your training. Yiqing Tang spoke up. There were only 10 days before the fight with Qin Feng. She already gained a good understanding of Lei Yan and Nangong Lai's situation. Tonight, she would have to conduct a careful analysis on how to improve their cultivation levels as quickly as possible. Even as Yiqing Tang came up with their cultivation plan, she didn't neglect her own cultivation. During this period, she had revised quite a bit on martial arts and made some significant adjustments to her own cultivation methods. As a result, her own powers were gradually increasing. There were already signs that she might break through to the Paragon 7th Heaven level soon. Chapter 2170, Training, 2. Just before she was about to break through, Yiqing Tang suddenly sealed up her spirit energy. In the second domain during her previous life, Yiqing Tang obtained a special skill. This was the skill which enabled her to finally ascend to the Emperor level toward the end of her previous life. This skill was called Spirit Sealing. As the name suggested, this skill could temporarily seal one's spirit energy. As one's spirit energy increased with cultivation, the amount being stored would also increase. After reaching the maximum limit, the practitioner could then unleash all the spirit energy at once. This spirit energy would be more vigorous and trigger a breakthrough in the cultivation level. This kind of skill might be good, but it could only be used by practitioners at Paragon 5th Heaven level and above. As long as the stored energy was enough, it could trigger a breakthrough when unleashed. Also, this skill was only suitable for practitioners below the Emperor level. It was useless for those who had already surpassed the Emperor level. Taking advantage of her time in the Netherworld Academy when Yiqing Tang didn't have to worry about her survival, she made use of her spirit sealing skill. Directing the energy in her body toward the sealed compartment, it maintained her cultivation level, which was supposed to increase, at the Paragon 6th Heaven level. In reality, the Paragon 6th Heaven level was not that high in the second domain. But it was still sufficient. However, the Netherworld Academy was the top academy in the second domain, and the teenagers here were all terrifyingly powerful. Even Jing Ze, whom everyone else here sneered at, would be considered an enviable prodigy in other regions within the second domain. Yiqing Tang continued to utilize the spirit sealing technique as she taught Nangong Lai and the rest. It did not take long for Yiqing Tang to realize that although her students' powers were not considered high in the Netherworld Academy, the constraints on their innate talents should be easily overcome. In reality, over the next 300 years, there would be all sorts of techniques developed and spread across the world which would enable many people to cultivate and improve. It could be said that if these teenagers were transported 300 years into the future and cultivated using those new techniques, they would be at least 5 levels higher. Going by what Lei Yan and the rest told her about their situation, Yi Qingtang gave them specific pointers on how to improve their practice methods. Lei Yan and the rest were very astonished by her methods. "Boss, are you joking? You want me to seal my energy and cultivate? I feel so bloated and uncomfortable." Lei Yan was flushed red all over. It was a cool day but his bare arms were already drenched in sweat. Yi Qingtang just looked at Lei Yan. According to what she knew, Lei Yan was not born in the Leitang family. His mother left the family after getting pregnant, and so Lei Yan spent his early years away from the family, practicing normal cultivation techniques. As such, he had not benefited from the guidance of a great clan. Lei Yan's innate talents were considered pretty good, but he had missed out on the most crucial period of time. His energy channels were not unlocked when he was a child, and so his speed of cultivation was very slow now. Yi Qingtang had him practice energy sealing to unlock his energy channels. Seeing that Yi Qing did not respond, Lei Yan had no choice but to bear the heat and continue cultivating. He had his doubts but he did not dare to dally. Yi Qingtang observed him for a moment longer before leaving. Lei Yan and the rest had no choice but to just continue practicing. After practicing for some time they followed Yi Qing's earlier instructions to find an empty area in the campus, and started training their physical body. Chapter 2171, Training, 3, Inside the academy, Qin Feng was walking alone. His face looked rather grim and his skin had a purplish tinge to it. Endless waves of pain spread across his chest and his face turned increasingly ghastly. "Qin Feng." A voice rang out from behind Qin Feng. Qin Feng turned to see a familiar figure. Qin Xian. Qin Xian and Qin Feng were both from the Qin family. When Qin Feng had been famous, Qin Xian would tag along beside him all day long, ingratiating himself to him and following his lead. At that time, he could be considered Qin Feng's closest same-age friend. But after Qin Feng's powers declined, Qin Xian replaced him as the Qin family's upcoming star. He started to grow distant from Qin Feng. Qin Feng looked impassively at the smug-faced Qin Xian. The other teenagers besides Qin Xian all gazed at Qin Feng with disdain. On the contrary, they behaved deferentially toward Qin Xian. They looked exactly like how Qin Xian used to be when he once stood beside Qin Feng. "Qin Feng, why didn't you attend faculty head Gus' lesson today?" Qin Xian smiled at Qin Feng. Qin Feng's eyes flashed slightly at the mention of faculty head Gu. Then he looked away and started to leave without a single word. But Qin Xian had no intention of letting Qin Feng leave so easily. He lifted his leg to block his way and his icy gaze. Qin Xian smiled again. "Qin Feng, faculty head Gu used to be your master, how can you disregard him in this way? That doesn't seem appropriate, right?" Gu Wei was the faculty head of the internal cultivation faculty inside the Netherworld Academy. He was also the most respected elder in the Netherworld Academy when Qin Feng first joined the school. After Qin Feng enrolled in the Netherworld Academy, faculty head Gu took him under his wing as his direct disciple, carefully grooming him. A disciple and student were two different things. At that time, Qin Feng's future appeared limitless. But then Qin Feng's powers suddenly declined. No matter what method Gu Wei tried, he could not change Qin Feng's situation. It was a smear upon Gu Wei's reputation and he gradually ignored Qin Feng completely. "Qin Feng, it was a pity you didn't go for the lesson today," another teenager beside Qin Xian piped up. Today, faculty head Gu officially took in Qin Xian as his personal disciple. Qin Feng's face stiffened slightly at his words. That's right. His own powers were declining while Qin Xian's cultivation level was increasing. It was only natural that Gu Wei no longer wanted him. Brother Feng is also faculty head Gus' disciple. In the future, we will be fellow disciples. Qin Xian smiled before pretending to suddenly realize he had said something wrong. He said with fake regret. Sorry Brother Feng, I forgot. You are no longer faculty head Gus' disciple. The academy has assigned a new teacher to you, excuse me. Qin Feng took a deep breath and turned to leave. This time Qin Xian didn't stop him. He just grinned at Qin Feng's departing profile. Brother Feng, faculty head Gu said that he wants me to participate in the inter-academy competition. Qin Xian suddenly spoke again. Qin Feng's footsteps wavered. The inter-academy competition. When Gu Wei first took him under his wing, it was because he wanted to groom him for the inter-academy competition. Now, he had changed his candidate to Qin Xian. Qin Feng quietly clenched his fists as he thought about his declining cultivation level. Chapter 2172, Training, 4, Qin Xian smiled. He wanted to say something else but a wailing teenager suddenly charged out from a nearby forest. The top half of his body was bare and flushed red. Nangong Lai, I curse you and all your ancestors. A frantic Lei Yan charged onto the main pathway. The bare top half of his body was covered in bruises. Those marks were not deep, just superficial scratches. However, there were many of them, densely covering his entire back and arms. It looked rather startling. Lei Yan, it's useless for you to curse me. Boss instructed me to do this. 100 lashes a day. Just endure it. Don't worry, I'm going very light on you, you won't suffer any internal injuries. Nangong Lai chased after Lei Yan with a whip. Now and then, he would lash out at Lei Yan's body, making loud smacking noises. The two brats charged forward, one chasing after the other. Lei Yan desperately wished to kill Nangong Lai and all his ancestors. But his eyes suddenly hardened and he came to a screeching halt. He nearly collided with Qin Feng. Qin Feng. Lei Yan saw the guy who was the cause of his misery over the past few days. He also noticed his grim expression, as if he would be lifting his hand to punch someone any moment now. Lei Yan instinctively took a step back as he stared vigilantly at Qin Feng. Qin Feng, we already agreed to fight again in 10 days. We still have 5 days to go. You cannot attack me before that. Lei Yan had been cultivating the sealed energy technique and his head was already bloated. After being lashed and chased by Nangong Lai, it was not his fault that his mind was now frazzled and filled with a constant buzzing. He instinctively thought that Qin Feng was here to beat him up. Nangong Lai also halted on seeing Qin Feng. Meanwhile, Qin Xian had overheard everything that Lei Yan just said. Oh. Brother Feng, you're going to duel with Lei Yan? Qin Xian laughed. Lei Yan was notorious in the Netherworld Academy. Qin Feng frowned. He looked at the madcap Lei Yan with eyes filled with disdain. It's not a duel. I just need to endure 10 moves from Qin Feng. Our boss said so. If he can defeat me within 10 moves, our boss will leave him alone in the future. Lei Yan spoke in a daze. He had no intention of dueling with Qin Feng for real. He still wanted to live. I see. Qin Xian spoke in a meaningful tone. He looked at Qin Feng's back profile. Brother Feng, I know you look down on the new teacher. But it's just a pity, that faculty head Gu no longer wishes to teach you. I feel that, you should just obediently comply with the academy's arrangements. After all, apart from the new teacher, who else would be willing to teach a student whose cultivation level is set on declining? Qin Xian's words were like a hammer, smashing down on Qin Feng's chest. Yes, he was right, since Qin Feng's powers declined, none of the teachers wanted to be implicated by his problem. All the teachers cared about was producing outstanding students so that they could bring glory upon themselves. At the very least, even if they couldn't produce exceptional students, they would still want to maintain their status quo. But Qin Feng was different. No matter how much effort they put into teaching him, Qin Feng's cultivation level continued to drop. This would only be a blemish on a teacher's reputation. As time passed, all the teachers in the Netherworld Academy started to ignore Qin Feng. Even when he was sitting in class, all the teachers would subconsciously forget about his presence. In the eyes of all the teachers, Qin Feng was now like a plague to be avoided at all costs. Chapter 2173, Training, 5, Qin Feng remained silent and only fled the scene with a grim face. Qin Xian was delighted at the sight of Qin Feng's pathetic escape. Meanwhile, Lei Yan was being dragged away by Nangong Lai before he could understand what was happening. "What are you doing? You want to lash me again?" Lei Yan whined. Nangong Lai couldn't resist rolling his eyes. "I have met stupid people, but I have never met someone as stupid as you. Be sure to pray harder for your match in 5 days." "What?" Lei Yan still didn't understand. Nangong Lai pointed at Qin Xian, who had already walked a distance away. "Don't you know who he is?" "No idea." "Who?" "Qin Xian," Nangong Lai replied. Lei Yan was taken aback. "Qin Xian? The prodigy from the internal cultivation faculty?" Nangong Lai nodded. "He is from the same family as Qin Feng. But they are not on good terms. Brother, I had believed that you might be able to endure 10 moves, but now, I think you have no hope. Didn't you sense the tension between Qin Feng and Qin Xian earlier? And you foolishly went to tell Qin Xian all about the bet between you and Qin Feng. You are just asking for it, giving Qin Feng more reason to beat you up." It didn't take much for Nangong Lai to know that Qin Xian's earlier words were meant to provoke Qin Feng. It was already a rare feat that Qin Feng wasn't angered to death. At this moment, Lei Yan finally realized what a deplorable mistake he made. His face instantly fell. I didn't do it on purpose." His mind had been all fuzzy. How was he to know what he had been saying? Nangong Lai rolled his eyes again. "Say, do you think Qin Feng will have mercy on me if I apologize to him now?" Lei Yan asked. The corners of Nangong Lai's lips twitched. "What do you think?" Lei Yan felt like crying. "How about I bring a bunch of guys to beat up Qin Xian?" The moment he said it, Lei Yan immediately realized how foolish that was. What a joke. He couldn't even beat Qin Feng. How to beat up the even more powerful Qin Xian? His gang would probably flee like scared rabbits the moment they heard Qin Xian's name. Lei Yan was doomed. Within moments, news of the fight between Qin Feng and Lei Yan and everyone in the entire Netherworld Academy knew of it. Quite a number of them found it very amusing. No matter how much Qin Feng's powers declined, there was no way Lei Yan could manage him. And 10 moves. Qin Feng could probably settle Lei Yan with just one. But everyone had nothing better to do and wanted to see a good show. Especially those who were at odds with Lei Yan. They really wanted to see just how badly Lei Yan would be beaten up, without the protection of the other Lei Tang family teenagers. Qin Feng is fighting Lei Yan. The eyebrows of an elder rose in surprise when he heard of the news. Standing by the side with a humble expression, Qin Xian nodded. "I also heard the news of that. When I last saw Brother Feng, I tried to dissuade him from associating with people like Lei Yan, but, humph." The elder snorted coldly. "If he wishes to let himself go, no one can help him. Qin Xian, both you and Qin Feng are from the same Qin family. I don't wish to see you follow in his footsteps." Lei Yan didn't have a good reputation in the Netherworld Academy. Apart from his own people from the Lei Tang family, all the other students kept away from him. But Qin Feng was now mixing with a guy like him. It was lamentable. Qin Xian immediately answered, "Master, don't worry. I will never let myself go like that." Chapter 2174, 10 days, 1, 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Qin Feng arrived promptly at the agreed time and location to find that Lei Yan was already there. Apart from Lei Yan, Yi Qingtang, Jing Zhe, and the rest were also already there. Qin Feng looks like he is in a bad mood today. Do you think he will take this opportunity to beat me to death? Lei Yan really felt like crying now. especially after he scanned the arena and realized that quite a number of other students had gathered nearby. The sight made him feel like breaking down into a blubbering heap. All his nemeses were present and accounted for. The Lei Tang family teenagers were also here. They were staring at Lei Yan in exasperation. Qin Feng's powers might have declined, but he was still at the Paragon 8th heaven level. Within the Netherworld Academy, he was still considered at least above average. Meanwhile, Lei Yan was a subpar piece of garbage. But he still dared to challenge Qin Feng. 10 moves. What a joke. A disparity of 2 whole levels. That alone was enough to completely subdue Lei Yan. I feel a bit dizzy. Boss, what should I do? Lei Yan usually put on a swaggering front, but inwardly, he knew very well that he could not defeat anyone. Now seeing the cool-faced Qin Feng, and thinking of his stupid actions a few days ago, he was suddenly worried that he would die here today. Yi Qingtang was full of disdain at the sight of the whimpering Lei Yan. Wipe the snot from your nose. Lei Yan sniffled. Just do exactly what I told you earlier, Yi Qingtang instructed. Lei Yan recalled Yi Qing's earlier instructions. A wave of fear washed over his heart. Taking a deep breath, he finally walked forward. The spectators' excitement and curiosity surged at the sight of Lei Yan stepping forward. Seriously? Is Lei Yan going for real this time? Is he really going to fight against Qin Feng? Does he have a death wish? Lei Yan has always been a fool. But I find it strange that Qin Feng is involved in this. He knows Lei Yan is no match for him. Why did he agree to fight Lei Yan? Do you think he is still the Qin Feng of before? His powers have declined tremendously. By now, he might not even be able to defeat Lei Yan. TSK, a former prodigy has fallen so far. Some of the spectators had come to see Lei Yan make a fool of himself. The others had come to witness Qin Feng's fall. This bunch of teenagers was full of youth and vigor. They were naturally drawn to anything that could offer some excitement and entertainment. Lei Yan was already used to the mockery of outsiders. He was now fully focused on Qin Feng. But Qin Feng's eyes dimmed when he heard those mocking words. He would remain a laughingstock no matter the outcome of this fight. Qin Feng glanced at Yi Qing, who was standing by the side. His slight frown revealed his displeasure. Qin Feng, 10 moves. Just 10 moves, alright. Lei Yan stood in front of Qin Feng. He was very worried that Qin Feng might take the opportunity to sneak in a few more attacks. Qin Feng had already lost his patience. Both Lei Yan and Teacher Yi were like clowns to him. He had enough of them. Let's go, Qin Feng snapped coldly. Lei Yan quietly swallowed and nodded. Qin Feng struck out in the very next second, startling Lei Yan. A powerful light engulfed Qin Feng as if he was immersed in a holy light. The spectators were stunned by the sight of Qin Feng enveloped in the holy light. Light stream. Lei Yan is using his killer move right from the start. Lei Yan is doomed. Light stream was one of the Qin family's elite moves. Chapter 2175, 10 Days, 2, Lei Yan was dumbstruck. He never imagined that Qin Feng would launch such a major move right from the start. Brother, why so much hate? We can always talk things through. Seeing the holy light about to make contact with him, Lei Yan recalled Yi Qing's earlier instructions. Taking a deep breath, his body swelled up like a ball. What is this technique of Lei Yan's? The crowd was taken aback by Lei Yan's sudden inflation. Even more shocking was that the moment Lei Yan's body ballooned up to the maximum, the breath he had been holding was suddenly unleashed. A hurricane-like cold wind radiated from the bottom of his feet as Lei Yan exhaled. The cold air immediately enveloped Lei Yan. Boom! A loud boom and dust flew everywhere. Qin Feng's attack created a mass of smoke and fog, such that no one could see Lei Yan at all. Qin Feng remained expressionless. The fight was over. Just as Qin Feng was preparing to turn and leave, a gasp rippled across the crowd of spectators. Somewhat dubious, Qin Feng instinctively turned. And was dumbstruck by what he saw. Lei Yan was covered in a thick layer of ice. The ice completely enveloped Lei Yan, as if he was encased inside a huge block of ice. And Qin Feng's earlier attack had landed on that ice. Multiple shards of ice were scattered on the ground, but Lei Yan was completely unharmed. Qin Feng, the spectators were all dumbfounded. Damn, what technique is that? What did Lei Yan do? Shameless, too shameless. I thought Lei Yan had become so bold as to challenge Qin Feng. I didn't expect, utterly shameless. I've really got to give it to him. The spectators snapped out of their daze. The rule of this fight was that Lei Yan would win if he could endure 10 moves from Qin Feng. Now, Lei Yan was hiding inside a big block of ice. How would Qin Feng be able to hit him? They have met shameless people before but have never met a person that's shameless. Come out and fight if you have got the guts. At this moment, Lei Yan was just hiding inside the ice. He could see what was happening outside, but couldn't hear the words of the spectators. Qin Feng's face darkened. He never imagined that Lei Yan had such a move. The crowd's discussion became increasingly heated. Even Qin Xian, who had come to watch the fight, was also stunned. But he smiled on seeing Qin Feng's grim face. Brother Feng, it's just a block of ice. Just shatter it. It shouldn't be that difficult for you, right? Qin Xian's casual voice drifted into Qin Feng's ears. Qin Feng took a deep breath. This farce seemed to have brought all his long-suppressed feelings to the fore. He was like a clown. Everything he did was a joke to others. His gaze subconsciously drifted over to Yi Qing. He couldn't understand what this teacher Yi was trying to do. He just wanted this to end as soon as possible. Qin Feng took another deep breath and his aura surged. He suddenly unleashed all the power in his body toward Lei Yan. Cracking sounds filled the air as Qin Feng executed a number of consecutive attacks at the ice. Layers of shattered ice flew in all directions. At the sight of the endless stream of shattered ice, Nangong Lai scurried over to Yi Qingtang's side. Boss, can Lei Yan really withstand 10 moves from Qin Feng? Chapter 2176, 10 Days, 3, Yi Qingtang crossed her arms over her chest, watching the fight in a relaxed manner. Make a guess. Nangong Lai, if he could guess, would he have asked? When Yi Qing suggested for Lei Yan to use the ice sealing power as a defense, Nangong Lai had thought she must be mad. How could a mere layer of ice defend against Qin Feng's powerful attacks? The ice would probably shatter after just a couple of attacks. How could Lei Yan win? But Nangong Lai soon realized something was not quite right. Qin Feng had already launched 3 attacks and the floor was covered in shattered ice shards. But the layer of ice surrounding Lei Yan appeared just as thick as before. It was like the ice layer was thickening continuously. At this point, Qin Feng's aura was in slight disarray. The ice layer appeared endless. His bet with Yi Qing was 10 moves. As long as Lei Yan could hold on for 10 moves, he would lose. If he didn't attack, he would also end up losing. Qin Feng suddenly realized that he had walked into a trap set up by Yi Qing. There was no need for Lei Yan to counterattack at all. As long as he protected himself and held against the attacks, he would win. As Qin Feng continued to attack, Lei Yan remained unharmed inside the layer of ice. The spectators thought they could witness Lei Yan's demise, but after watching for some time, they realized Lei Yan's tactic was truly disgusting. This was a boring fight with no exchange of moves at all. They were just watching Qin Feng hack away at a block of ice. The corners of the lips of Lei Yan's nemesis twitched as they watched. They had never seen Lei Yan so shameless before. Thinking that they wouldn't be able to see Lei Yan getting beaten up today, quite a number of people left in disgust. Qin Feng looked increasingly grave. He had only 2 moves left and all 10 moves would have been used up. But he had yet to even touch the corner of Lei Yan's shirt. Qin Feng glanced over the thinned-out crowd and noticed Qin Xian out of the corner of his eye. He saw very clearly the scorn on Qin Xian's face. A Paragon 8 heaven-level practitioner was being made a fool by a 6th heaven level. What a disgrace. The noisy crowd gradually dispersed. Qin Feng remained standing there, the surrounding temperature decreased by the pile of ice shards on the ground. The ice shards on him had already melted into bone-chilling ice water, slowly freezing his initial fervor. In the end, Qin Feng stopped attacking. Observing the layer of ice around Lei Yan, which was still as thick as before, Qin Feng realized he had already lost this match. He would never be able to shatter the ice layer and make contact with Lei Yan in just 2 more moves. A darkening aura of depression enveloped Qin Feng. He could not understand what that ice layer was. How was it able to let Lei Yan endure consecutive attacks by someone who was 2 levels higher than him? A major sense of failure filled his heart. Qin Feng gave a slightly bitter smile. He then turned to look at Yi Qing. I have lost. He had no idea how to handle Lei Yan. Didn't you say that you are 2 levels higher than Lei Yan and can easily defeat him? Yi Qing looked at Qin Feng, who for the first time displayed his anguish on his face. Yes, Qin Feng replied. Power is important, but brains are just as important. Yi Qing glanced at Lei Yan and stepped forward to stand beside the ice-encased teenager. Qin Feng did not know what Yi Qing was about to do. He only watched with a furrowed brow. Chapter 2177, Gathered, 1, Yi Qing walked over to the ice. Taking out a matchstick, he lit it before placing it on top of the ice. The ice started melting under the high temperature of the fire. He stepped back and after a while, the ice completely melted into water. Like that, he easily resolved it without using any spirit energy or any moves. Lei Yan couldn't hear the sounds outside, and when he saw that Yi Qing had melted his life-saving ice, he screamed. Boss, what are you doing? It's only 8 moves. There are 2 more moves. Lei Yan ran away to stand as far as possible from Yi Qing. He thought that Yi Qing had counted wrongly. Qin Feng, this is not counted. Boss did this. Wait for me, I'll freeze myself again before I take the remaining 2 moves. Lei Yan puffed his cheeks up, preparing to freeze himself again. Before Yi Qing could do anything, Lei Yan froze himself again. She was speechless. This brat clearly had no brain. You used only fire to melt the glacier? Qin Feng questioned Yi Qing with knitted brows. That seemed impossible. If you're not convinced, use a matchstick and try it out for yourself, Yi Qing replied. Qin Feng was skeptical, but he walked over to Lei Yan and lit a matchstick. The glacier started melting when it came into contact with the fire. Lei Yan was shocked. Qin Feng, you're shameless. How could you copy boss? After being scolded by the aggrieved Lei Yan, Qin Feng was speechless. Boss, this fellow has found a way to counter me. Teach me 2 more moves. Lei Yan hollered. Boss method was pretty useful. There's no need for that. Yi Qing sighed. She had to find some way to improve his intelligence, if not, he'll probably die because of his stupidity. Lei Yan was confused. You're indeed more powerful than Lei Yan, but it's precisely because of the power disparity that made you too reliant on your power. Yi Qing Tang was honest with Qin Feng. It was impossible for her to train the foolish Lei Yan to become skillful enough to confront Qin Feng with 10 moves in just 10 days. However, that didn't mean that she couldn't train Lei Yan just enough to just take in 10 moves from Qin Feng. Qin Feng was overconfident. He only knew how to attack without carefully thinking about it when Lei Yan used such unorthodox methods. Yi Qing Tang had extensive experience in battling those who were stronger than her in her previous lifetime. No one knew better than her that tactfulness was critical in battling stronger opponents. Psychological warfare was critical as well. Qin Feng kept quiet for a moment. Teacher Yi, I'll go to class tomorrow. It didn't feel good to lose, but Qin Feng realized some problems over this process. He didn't resonate with Yi Qing's little antics. However, he would still stick to his promise and attend Yi Qing's lessons. Anyway, he wouldn't be able to stay in the Netherworld Academy any longer. It didn't matter after all. Qin Feng turned around to leave right after saying those words. He left before Lei Yan could even process everything. He scratched his head and asked, "Boss, what happened?" "He just admitted defeat like that." "He's scared that your brains will turn bad if you continue freezing yourself," Yi Qing replied. "He was already this dumb, if he continued, wouldn't he truly become a fool?" Lei Yan. When did Qin Feng become this thoughtful? Chapter 2178, Gathered, 2, the next morning. Jing Zhe arrived at the classroom early and was surprised when he spotted a figure. Before Jing Zhe could say anything, Yi Qing walked into the classroom. When Yi Qing saw the figure, she was stunned. Nangong Lai and Lei Yan, who followed behind her, had the same reaction. Yun Chen. Nangong Lai was stupefied. Wasn't that Yun Chen who suddenly appeared in the classroom? What was going on? Nangong Lai and Lei Yan exchanged glances and they were both perplexed. Wasn't it Qin Feng who lost yesterday? Why? Why did Yun Chen come instead? Yun Chen, why did you come? Nangong Lai was acquaintances with Yun Chen, so he spoke up. Yun Chen smiled at Nangong Lai before he took a chair and sat down, looking at Yi Qing casually. Nangong Lai. Hey, what happened? Why does it seem like he's coming back? I clearly remember that, it should be Qin Feng who's supposed to turn up today. Lei Yan was confused. Yun Chen was now part of the medical faculty, he should be spending time on elixirs, why did he come? Who knows? Nangong Lai was also confused. He tried to convince Yun Chen to come previously and Yun Chen only gave him a smile without planning to come. But now, what happened? Could it be that Yun Chen had posed as Qin Feng to challenge me yesterday? Is that why he's here today instead of Qin Feng? Lei Yan guessed. Nangong Lai subconsciously walked away. Stupidity was contagious. Lei Yan didn't appear to notice and was still immersed in his wild guesses. Yun Chen is part of the medical faculty. It's not entirely impossible for him to create an elixir that would help him disguise as someone else. Could it be that Qin Feng didn't want to challenge me so he got Yun Chen to pose as himself? Yun Chen is such a poor thing, he couldn't say no to Qin Feng and had to. Lei Yan was even more convinced now. He was completely unaware that Nangong Lai and Jing Zhe were judging him, as if they were looking at a fool. "I'm not that lame." A cold, unfeeling voice came from Lei Yan's back. Lei Yan was stunned, taking 2 steps back when he realized Qin Feng suddenly appeared behind him. Lei Yan. As Qin Feng looked at Lei Yan, he couldn't help but feel that challenging a fool like Lei Yan was forever a part of his dark past. Teacher Yi. Qin Feng didn't want to talk to Lei Yan anymore. Once he saw Yi Qing, he found a seat near Yi Qing and sat down. Is this a package deal? Nangong Lai touched his chin. He felt that Yun Chen's appearance today has got something to do with Qin Feng and Lei Yan's fight yesterday. Was Yun Chen also there yesterday? Though Yun Chen wasn't the most powerful out of the bunch, he was extremely intelligent. There must be a reason behind his sudden appearance today. Soon after, Mu Ziying also arrived. She hadn't noticed that there were 2 more people in the classroom and just found a seat that was nearest to Yi Qing and sat down, behaving well. Yi Qing looked at the 6 who were finally gathered together and her eyes crinkled into a smile. Great, they were finally gathered. Chapter 2179, Gathered, 3, as usual, Yi Qing had Qin Feng and Yun Chen tell her about the cultivation techniques which they had practiced before. Yun Chen's cultivation techniques were more or less normal. When Qin Feng spouted out a whole list of high-level techniques, all the other teenagers were completely stunned. Damn, is Qin Feng some kind of freak? He is still so young but has already practiced those techniques. Just hearing the list of Qin Feng's techniques was enough to make Lei Yan feel like kneeling on the floor and kowtowing. Those techniques were extremely profound and he had tried a couple before. But he was unable to comprehend a single thing and ended up giving up. But Qin Feng had practiced those techniques to at least the 5th level. Nangong Lai crossed his hands behind his head. You are right. Qin Feng was already famous before entering the Netherworld Academy. If not for the fact that his powers suddenly regressed, he would probably be at least at the Divine Lord stage. Those at the Divine Lord level were all famously powerful practitioners. And Qin Feng was still in his teens. In the entire Netherworld Academy, the number of people who could reach the Divine Lord level before the age of 20 could be counted on one hand. Apart from those freaks ranked in the top 10, no one else would even dare to dream of such an achievement. Lei Yan gasped at Nangong Lai's words. But on second thought, he asked quietly, why did Qin Feng's powers suddenly regress? Nangong Lai shrugged. No one knows. The president personally checked him over but didn't find anything strange. His powers just kept declining. He is only at the Paragon 8 heaven level now. I think that it is still regressing. The continuous decline of a person's powers was a very strange problem. Yi Qingtang did not discover anything weird in Qin Feng's practice methods. So it appeared that the problem lay with himself. She called Qin Feng over to her side and made use of her deity Ocean to probe his body condition. Qin Feng's physical condition looked rather normal, but when Yi Qingtang used the power of her deity Ocean to analyze his body, she discovered that he had hidden chaotic energy inside him, which was constantly diluting his own spirit energy. Chaotic mental demon. Yi Qingtang was stunned. Qin Feng looked at Yi Qingtang with confusion. Yi Qingtang furrowed her brows slightly. There were countless young talented prodigies in the world. But few of those who became famous when they were young would eventually develop to become truly elite powerful practitioners. The reason was because many of those talented teenagers would develop a terrifying type of mental demon after reaching a certain stage. These mental demons were undetectable. It was only 200 years later that a certain mighty practitioner discovered the existence of these deeply hidden mental demons. The symptoms of chaotic mental demons varied from person to person. Some went completely mad, some ended up destroying their energy channels and becoming paralyzed. Qin Feng's situation appeared to be the second type. And all practitioners who developed chaotic mental demons had a common point: their bloodlines were very aggressive and ferocious. For example, the Jiang family's heavenly demon bloodline also had a certain chance of developing chaotic mental demons. If Yi Qingtang remembered correctly, the Qin family's bloodline was called the Killer Bloodline. The Killer Bloodline had a very high ferocity. There were already a number of prodigies in the Qin family who during their prime, suddenly lost their senses and went into a murderous rampage, attacking even their own kin. Chapter 2180, Gardner. 1. Unless there were some other external factors, it was probably because those people had developed chaotic mental demons. But those incidents became increasingly rare, and Qin Feng was probably the first person in the Qin family over the past 10,000 years to have developed chaotic mental demons. In present times, chaotic mental demons were like a nightmare that one could never wake up from. Once it developed, no matter how powerful the practitioner was, he would be ruined. But 300 years into the future, this was no longer a difficult problem. Qin Feng. Yi Qing looked at him. Qin Feng turned toward Yi Qing. He had no idea what chaotic mental demons were. But he didn't harbor any high hopes for this teacher. He was just fulfilling his promise and passing the time. I will set aside an area outside the classroom for you, Yi Qing said. By the side, Nangong Lai and Lei Yan pricked up their ears. Wah! To think that boss held this kid in such high regard. Immediately setting aside a special cultivation area just for him. Qin Feng was unimpressed by Yi Qing's special treatment. He just gave a bitter smile. He was the most powerful person in this group. As the teacher, it was only natural that she would hold him in high regard. It was a pity that she was just wasting her efforts. His powers would continue to decline. A prodigy since young, Qin Feng was already used to preferential treatment from adults. Just as everyone believed that Yi Qing was showing favoritism toward Qin Feng, she suddenly took out a cloth bag from her space ring, and placed it in Qin Feng's hand. Lei Yan and Nangong Lai felt extremely jealous. A special cultivation area? Fine. But now, boss was giving him a treasure, right in front of everyone. This was so inappropriate. Jealous. Qin Feng glanced at the cloth bag in his hand and then dubiously at Yi Qing. Teacher Yi, you don't need to waste any effort on me. It would be better if you take this treasure back. Qin Feng spoke nonchalantly. Teachers were indeed all the same. Treasure? Yi Qing was taken aback. Qin Feng glanced at the cloth bag in his hand. Holding her forehead, Yi Qing said, "Open it and take a look." Qin Feng opened it. Nangong Lai and Lei Yan stretched out their necks, trying to take a look too. When the bag was opened, there was no treasure to be seen at all. It was just a bag full of round seeds. Qin Feng was stunned. I think you have misunderstood. These are flower seeds. I want you to plant these seeds in the area that I will set aside for you. Yi Qing spoke calmly. Qin Feng, plant seeds. Him. Nangong Lai and Lei Yan nearly burst out laughing. Formidable. Boss, we get you. Boss must have felt that this Qin Feng was too arrogant. And so to punish him, he was being made a gardener. The corners of Qin Feng's lips twitched. But in the end, he didn't say anything. With a bitter smile, he took the seeds. Anyway, he was just passing time. Whatever. As he said he would, Yi Qing lifted her hand and cleared an open space in the forest outside the classroom for Qin Feng. Qin Feng put away his sword and picked up a hoe. As Nangong Lai and the others attended lessons in the classroom, Qin Feng quietly planted the seeds outside. Lei Yan felt rather pained at the sight. Brother, I really couldn't tell that our boss is so petty. Torturing Qin Feng like this just because Qin Feng was unwilling to attend his lessons. Planting seeds, is this really something that young masters should do? Chapter 2181, Medicine Faculty, 1, Yi Qingtang left first after settling Lei Yan and the rest. The others were easy to manage. They would be fine as long as she could find suitable cultivation methods for them. Yun Chen was the exception. Yun Chen was from the medicine faculty and specialized in refining medicine and elixirs. Yi Qingtang had always been a loner in her previous life. She was being hunted and she didn't have much money on her. As a result, she didn't dare to venture into crowded areas and she would refine most of the elixirs she needed. On top of that, she had always wanted to restore her spirit root, and so spent a lot of time and effort on medicine cultivation. If it was just about giving pointers on cultivating medicines, Yi Qingtang would not have any problems with that. But Yun Chen's case was more special. As a result of his bloodline, his success rate at cultivating medicines was extremely low. Yi Qingtang had to find other ways to resolve this. The cultivation of medicines was also one of the categories in the Inter-Academy competition. Yi Qingtang only had 6 students. To get that wind-calming pearl, she would not give up on either one of them. Half a day later, Yi Qingtang finally came up with a solution. Yun Chen's problem lay in his bloodline. They just had to make his bloodline go temporarily dormant when he was cultivating medicines. This method sounded fantastical. But Yi Qingtang knew of the existence of such an elixir from her previous life. However, the process to refine that elixir was rather complicated and Yi Qingtang didn't have an elixir refining tripod. She set her sights on the medicine faculty. The medicine faculty had many tools for refining elixirs. As a teacher of the Netherworld Academy, it should not be difficult for Yi Qingtang to borrow an alchemy lab. At this thought, Yi Qingtang hurried over to the medicine faculty. Just as Yi Qingtang was prepared to find a medicine faculty teacher to negotiate the use of a lab, she inadvertently discovered a few familiar figures there. What do you mean by that? Can't we come to the medicine faculty? Lei Yan's loud shouts drifted over to Yi Qingtang's ears. Yu Qingtang glanced over and saw that Lei Yan and the rest, who were supposed to be practicing in the classroom, had all appeared in the medicine faculty. Apart from Qin Feng, who was diligently planting seeds, all the other 5 students were present and accounted for. At this moment, Lei Yan and the rest were arguing over something with a few teenagers from the medicine faculty. "Brother, don't be so distant. We just want to make friends. Look, our academy has always encouraged students from the other faculties to establish good ties with the medicine faculty, right? Give us the elixirs you have refined and we will return the favor in the future." Nangong Lai smiled. The medicine faculty students all specialized in medicine cultivation. Although they were only students now, they would become full-fledged alchemists after leaving the Netherworld Academy. Alchemists were highly respected positions in all domains. They might not be very powerful, but they could refine all sorts of highly sought-after elixirs. The more skilled an alchemist was, the more powerful practitioners he would have on his side. To obtain high-quality elixirs, those powerful practitioners were more than happy to protect those alchemists. This unspoken rule was also present in the Netherworld Academy. Most of the students here would try their best to establish good relations with the medicine faculty students. Although those teenagers were just students now, to be able to enter a prestigious school like the Netherworld Academy, every single one of them was exceptionally talented in medicine cultivation. Chapter 2182, Medicine Faculty, 2. Even now as students, every single one of them would be considered pretty good alchemists outside of the academy. The students from the other faculties would naturally be able to obtain more elixirs to help in their cultivation if they could become friends with these teenagers. Lei Yan and the rest had been negligent in this aspect as they were already prepared to be kicked out of the school. The notion of making friends with the medicine faculty students did not even cross their minds. But the appearance of Yu Qingtang had given them hope. At Yun Chen's reminder, the entire group had rushed over to the medicine faculty to see if they could find a few students to secure a good future supply of elixirs. It was a reasonable plan, but a pity, things did not always go according to plan. After searching for some time, none of the medicine faculty students were willing to partner with them. Those medicine faculty students were no fools. They had limited elixirs on hand and would naturally wish to supply students who had a brighter future ahead of them. As for Lei Yan and his gang, they did not meet their criteria. There had long been rumors circulating the Netherworld Academy about how these people would be kicked out soon. The academy had already designated them as hopeless and it was only natural that the medicine faculty students would not want to waste their elixirs on this group. "Aren't you guys with Yun Chen? Just get Yun Chen to refine some elixirs if you need them." One of the medicine faculty teenagers spoke up impatiently. He looked at Lei Yan and his gang like they were just a swarm of pesky flies. A bunch of jokers like them wanted to ally with the medicine faculty students? Only a fool would give them elixirs. Lei Yan and the rest were taken aback by the teenagers' words. They glanced at Yun Chen. Yun Chen maintained his smile. "Yes, you guys have Yun Chen right? Why are you looking for others? Moreover, apart from him, do you think anyone here would give you elixirs?" Another teenager added rudely. Nangong Lai had been speaking in a cordial manner but his face now darkened at the words of those two teenagers. He had known Yun Chen from before. They had entered the Netherworld Academy at the same time and used to belong to the martial arts faculty together. But because of Yun Chen's weak physical condition, he had been transferred to the medicine faculty. However, Yun Chen's situation at the medicine faculty was not without its difficulties. His drifting cloud bloodline drastically reduced the success rate of his medicine cultivation and as a result, he was completely unable to supply others. These two were both from the medicine faculty. How could they not know about Yun Chen's situation? They had purposely singled out Yun Chen just to make him look bad. "Don't give us any if you don't want to. Do you think we are that desperate for it?" Nangong Lai put up a brave front. "Even if you are desperate for it, no one will give it to you. I advise you not to waste any more time here." The medicine faculty teenagers smirked before turning to leave. Lei Yan wanted to say something else but Nangong Lai stopped him. "Don't waste your breath. Can't you tell they look down on us? The medicine faculty teenagers would only give out elixirs to those whom they deemed worthy. And this bunch had been deemed unworthy by those teenagers. Lei Yan had come to the medicine faculty full of hope and expectations. But now, having failed to ally and even endured the ridicule of others, his face looked very grim. Just as they turned to leave, they bumped into a slender figure.